Good evening. City of Lamarque City Council regular agenda of January 22nd, 2024. Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Lamarque, Texas will conduct a regular meeting January 22nd, 2024, beginning at 6 p.m. in council chambers at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas, as well as via video conference hosted through Zoom. In accordance with section 551.127B of the Texas Local Government Code, the presiding officer and the quorum of the Lamarque City Council intend to be and will physically be present at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarque, Texas. This location will be open to the public. The meeting will be broadcast at this location on Channel 16 and via YouTube. The council will meet for the purpose of considering the following agenda. The meeting has been called to order. Kiara, would you give us a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember District A,
Present.
Councilmember District B,
Present.
Councilmember District C,
Present.
Councilmember District D,
Present.
and Mayor.
Present. Thank you. We would like to ask Pastor Jervy Wyndham of Resonate Church to lead us in our invocation, followed by Councilwoman Kimberly Yancey leading us in our pledge. Stand if you are able.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we truly thank you for these moments that we're able to gather together as a community. Your word reminds us that your mercies are new every single morning. We thank you for the mercies and the grace that allow us to be here on Tuesday. We pray now, God, that your presence would be here with us in a tangible way. God, that you would provide wisdom and guidance to all of those that would make decisions on this evening that have to do with our community and those that you love. God, I pray that love would truly be the platform on tonight, that love would fill our hearts, not just the love that we have for you, but the love that you command us to have for one another. May we remember this love as we say the words that you taught your disciples to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven,
Heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
For that is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Jervy, and thank you, Councilwoman Yancey. Item 4, presentations. We have 3 tonight. First of which would be for 1, introduction of new staff members. Mr. Garcia.
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to take a brief moment to introduce Ms. Stacy Froschner to the dais for a brief introduction. She is our new court administrator, joined us after numerous years of experience. I want to get a chance, as we do every time that we hire a department head, bring them forward for a chance for them to get a chance to meet you all and to be recognized by the community. Ms. Stacy?
Hello, again, my name is Stacy Froschner and I come with 20+ years experience from surrounding municipal courts. I'm really excited to join your team because this is also my hometown. So it's really nice to be back. Yes, I grew up here. My family still lives here. So I'm excited to be a part of y'all's team again. And I look forward to leading the court into a new paperless system.
Wow. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Stacy.
Welcome.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And again, welcome to our great city and welcome home. Item 4.2, we have the retirement announcement of Mr. Curtis Barber of the Lamarque Fire Department, 27 years. I would like for Mr. Barber and Chief Merriman to step forward, please. We, on behalf of the, on behalf of the Lamarck City Council, certainly on behalf of every citizen of this great city, Mr. Barber, the 27 years that you've given this city, of service, sacrifice, and I can obviously say that, being a firefighter, understanding what that took away from my family and away from my life. So if we conduct this for our city, for every citizen that has called this city home for 27 consistent years, we owe you more than what we are giving you tonight. But tonight, yes, let's give them. Many people come and go through our city. But this council, who are representatives of this great community, the highest honor we have is to bring you into our council's chamber to acknowledge your service and acknowledge all that you've done for our city. We're doing that tonight. Certainly your chief, man who you served with for many years, is here to speak on behalf of the brothers and sisters of the Lamar Fire Department. Certainly, your city manager is here to speak on behalf of the rest of the employees that you've worked with over the years, and so we'll give you.
You know, as I knew, it's gonna be tough, Curtis. You know, it's my time in this city and Jarvis' time, and everybody that's been here, there's always been Curtis. So enjoy your retirement. We have council has blessed you with a flag that flew over the city. This flag flew over the city on your last official day on duty. So this is from guys in the department, mayor and council. So
Curtis, we also have here the flag, this like give me a card for you. We also have a small flag of appreciation here. We recognize the recognition of your 27 years of dedicated service, commitment, and leadership. Your unwavering dedication has left an indelible mark on the city, inspiring us all. May your well-earned retirement be filled with joy, relaxation, and new adventures. Your legacy will continue to inspire us for years to come. Congratulations and best wishes in your retirement from the city of New York. On behalf of your extended fire family and the rest of us, the city employees that we're lucky enough to serve with you for the 27-year term and former. In the future, we'll have to live up to the standard that you set with us. We respect this.
It's been hard to work with you. I always say, you know, the fire department represents the city. And so when everybody goes out there and goes on a call or goes on a PR event, whatever, remember, you reflect on, spread onto the city. So try to be professional, courteous, and respect for everybody in the city.
So we're gonna have you go out back here for something a little special we have planned tonight. Specified with Marque, we don't have time to the team. It'll be kind of fun and safe for you guys to have one last gathering for you. So they'll take you to the staff and prepare something for you back. So surprises are coming, but we do thank you for
That's a proclamation, proclaiming, I believe, today.
The 31st,
The first,
the 30th.
the 31st, Curtis Barber Day in the city of Lamar.
Oh, wow.
So we'll certainly share that. We have another proclamation here. This proclamation honors and acknowledges the Delta Sigma Theta sorority for their Founders Day. I believe we have representatives from the Delta Sigma Theta sorority here with us. If we do, you may all stand and come forward at this time. Look at you, wonderful. You may all come forward. You'll be accepting? All right. Normally, I would read this into the record, but I believe that one of your own is on our council tonight. So certainly I will yield willingly to Councilwoman Kimberly Yancey as she reads this proclamation into the record. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Congratulations, ladies.
I just want to say thank you to our mayor for allowing us to do this, to recognize our Founders Day. The Office of the Mayor, City of Lamar proclamation. Whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was founded on January 13, 1913. And whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is a private nonprofit organization whose purpose is to provide assistance and support in local communities through established programs. Whereas on June 8, 1861, 11 eager young women, including one of Lamarck's very own, the late Miss Sarah Giles, chartered the Lamarck Alumni Chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority has distinguished itself as a reputable international public service organization with a critical focus on programs addressing education, health, community, and international development. And whereas since being chartered, the Lamarck Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated has committed itself to serving this mission, and now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council, by virtue of our authority vested by the city of Lamar, Texas, do hereby proclaim January 13, 2024 as Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Founders Day in the city of Lamar, and urge all citizens to join in the celebration of the foundation of this organization and engage in the community service efforts of this organization to better serve the community. In testimony whereof, witness my hand and seal of the city of Lamar, our own mayor, Keith Bell. One thing that I want to say, my mother was here, raise your hand, Mom. This was her chapter when I was growing up as a young girl in Clear Lake. This is the group that I would come to and sit in on the meetings and be in on the community service project. So this particular chapter means a lot to me in the grooming of the one that I have to come. And I just want you to share some words and let the community know some of the things that you all are doing now.
Well, thank you. On behalf of the chapter, we are ecstatic that you are doing this for us. And we love our community, and service is what we do. And so we have done so many things in our years. I think we're over 60 years in this community. With the children, we have mentoring girls and boys, mentoring sessions. We provide scholarships, workshops, and we provide scholarships every year to the local schools in the community. This year, we are particularly excited because we are embarking on political awareness. So you may see us more. We do international awareness, particularly for AIDS and physical and mental health in the community. And again, we love serving our community and we appreciate it so much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Item 5, citizens participation limited to 3 minutes. Comments from the public will be heard at this time. Any person with city-related business who has signed up may speak to council, limited to 3 minutes. Wishing to speak, you may give the mayor or the presiding officer your full legal name, address, and item you wish to speak about. Compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the city may not deliberate on comments Personal attacks will not be allowed, and personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. Press *6 to mute or unmute. If you are participating via telephone, press the microphone icon in the lower portion of your screen. If you're visiting via Zoom, smartphone, tablet, or computer. If you are standing with us in person, you may approach the podium, the center aisle, give myself your name and your address, and you will be heard. Tonight, we have first Mr. Robert Mischich. Welcome, Robert. Name and address for the record.
Robert Michtich, 24 North Curlew Street, Lamarck. Speaking about item 10.7 on the elections. I find it interesting that the county elections that are coming up for February and March have a polling place over at our fire station over off 2004 on the west side of town. But last meeting, when y'all set the election location for our May elections, you only put in again for this location back here in the community room and did not put in for the fire station. And Mayor, you also had asked about voting history, as if that was going to make a decision about how people vote. But let's look at the confusion this creates. It's been open before for Mr. Compion's election and during Mr. Ross's during that time, it was closed. Yet almost 100%, I believe, of District B is on that west side, and it was closed. Then it was open again. Then it's closed. Yeah, and now we're going to have the counties open. What kind of confusion does that send? And most all of our growth, most of it residential, is all on that west side, and it keeps growing. And Mr. Garcia, the last time we discussed this for the last one, you had promised that it would be open from here on out. We'd have 2 polling locations. So that's, you know, if you don't, people get angry about that. They view it as voter suppression, you know, and those are things that we don't need a reputation for. So all I'm asking you guys is, and you can do it, the county doesn't dictate, you know, is to please open and have those 2 polling locations. That's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert.
Mayor, point of information
Go ahead, Joe.
for clarity. The action that we took at the last meeting was just setting the election date. I specifically remember asking Kira that requesting that second location be open, and that's something that you're engaging with the county people. That's what I understood.
Sorry, there actually is an item on the agenda to discuss this, and I'll be able to provide.
Right,
clarity.
right. Robert, I think you'll hear new information tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Alan, is it Harnish?
Yes.
Welcome, Alan. Name and address for the record, please.
Alan Hunnish, 2609 Meadow Lane, Lamarck. This is about ordinance that you have listed as 020240001. You're having your second reading on this ordinance tonight to do the heavy industrial zoning. I attended the previous Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in December. They asked that this be tabled at that time. I see the city council going behind planning and zoning to go ahead and try to push this ordinance through. At that meeting, I also mentioned and asked the city attorney how much this was going to cost the city of Lamarck if this ordinance was not passed. He said it was not going to cost the citizens of Lamarck nothing. Well, if you do not pass this ordinance, the railroad commission or railroad company is going to sue the city for $1.7 million as a settlement. He tried to deny it, and I know for a fact that he can deny all he wants. I understand. But this happened in 2017 when the city council didn't even bother to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission to get this passed. They went ahead and passed it on their own. That's an ordinance that should not have been passed. Citizens didn't have any input into it. So there's members of this city council that were on that committee, the council rather. Those citizens, those people that are on this council right now that was there should look inside and make a decision. Are you for the city? Are you against the city? Are you for the citizens? Are you against the citizens? If you go and pass this ordinance, you're against the citizens. And at that point, you should look inside your back of your political careers and decide to step down and leave your position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hornish. Brad Stevenson. Welcome, Mr. Stevenson. Name and address for the record, please.
Bradley Stevenson, 2603 Meadow Lane, Lamarck. Mayor, council, city manager, everyone here. Good evening. On January 8th, 2024, the Lamarck City Council unanimously voted to approve the first reading of a proposed zoning addition that would introduce an I3 heavy industrial zone. Some would question why a heavy industrial zone would even be desired in a small residential community. The Planning and Zoning Commission, of which I am a current member, studied this proposal in detail. And we thought that the proposal lacked many of the protections and rules necessary to allow nearby residents to continue to live in peace and harmony. We rejected this proposal as written, but we encouraged dialogue between the interested parties to perhaps change some of the provisions in the proposal to become something that we could approve and for the community in good conscience. If we really need a zone like this, why don't we do it right and come up with something that we can all live with once it's passed? So this proposed I3 heavy industrial zone addition will prove to be one of the most important decisions that I think this city government is going to make in the future. It would be great to add revenue to the city coffers, but it could also be the beginning of a huge exodus of residents and businesses in and around the 519 corridor. Let's look at some of the pros and cons about allowing a tank farm, railroad switch yard, railroad storage, turnaround. Frankly, this will allow just about anything that federal law will allow in the area known as the old golf course in Southeast Lamarck. Okay, the revenue side of this is obvious. Something like this would really bring a large, dependable revenue stream into the city. Of course, other less hazardous use of these properties could also bring in revenues. One of the most immediate effects will be noise. It will begin with construction of facilities, and once tracks, tanks, buildings, infrastructure are complete, it will continue for as long as the facility is operational. Increased buffer zones, the requirement for acoustic walls could be implemented to try to bring noise down to acceptable levels. But who will decide at what level the noise is acceptable? There are no provisions in this proposal to address noise of any kind. Another very important consideration is pollution. Tank farms, railroad cars filled with hazardous chemicals vent. Railroad locomotives spew hydrocarbons. Creosote railroad ties break down and those hazardous chemicals leach into the surrounding soils. We could go on, but let's just look at the facts. Heavy industry is not very environmentally friendly. In addition, the predominant winds from this area are from the southeast. This will ensure that all the fumes and dust are blown right into the heart of Old Lamarck and into the downtown now that we are redeveloping. Great. Again, there are no environmental protections for the citizens written into this.
Mr. Stevenson, come finish.
One little bit, sir.
Finish. Yes, sir.
Perhaps the most important consideration at hand is, what do the citizens of Lamarck want? Most of the citizens that I have spoken with are dead set against any type of industrial facility at this location. They believe that city financial revenues should not be held more important than the citizens' health, wellness,
and the right to peace and happiness. Obviously, the citizens should vote on an issue as important as this, or should they? All I can say is if you lived in one of those adjacent areas, what would you want your city representative to do? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Shaw Loftus. Name and address for the record, please. Welcome, excuse me.
Good evening, Rashard Loftus, 309 Johnson. I first want to start off by saying thank you to the city manager for finally fixing a leak in front of my rent house that leaked forever. Mr. Garcia, I do say thank you for taking care of that. And second off, I want us to do a better job with educating the public on dumping and putting out limbs, couches, mattresses, you name it. And it's mostly in District A, District D, and it's a continual cycle. And sometimes it's the same people doing it. And for far too long, we've allowed them to do it with no repercussions in some cases. And myself being a member of the Keep Lamar Beautiful Commission is really disheartening when I see this over and over again in the same spots, same area, and we're not doing nothing about it. Waste management is supposed to be picking up some of this stuff, but in some cases they don't. Most cases they don't, because it's not put out there correctly. It's just out there. So it's going to sit out there. I've watched several piles sit in front of certain residences, vacant lots for months on end. And I'm sick of it. I am absolutely sick of it. So this council, city manager, code enforcement, public works, y'all all need to do a better job, because I'm sick of it.
Thank you, Mr. Loftus. Mr. Jerry Wyndham. Welcome, Jerry. Name and address for the record, please.
Jervy Wyndham, 630 Hollingsworth Lane, Lamarck, Texas. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm here to basically bring awareness to an amazing event that's going to be taking place really close to us, right at College of the Mainland. It's called the Night to Shine. It's an event that's sponsored by the Tim Tebow Foundation and is hosted by our church and other churches that are coming together to host this amazing event. The Night to Shine is an unforgettable prom night experience for people with special needs, ages 14 and above. We did it last year, and we had to do it closer to League City area, just because we had to find a venue that had the capability to allow the special needs community to move freely in the facility. But this year we'll be having it right here at College of the Mainland. This is an opportunity for us as a community to come together and celebrate our wonderful, wonderful people in the special needs community. We can do that as a community family. We're looking for volunteers. So if you want to volunteer, if you go to our website, you'll see a link there that you can click on, and we can do background check and get you set up to volunteer. Also, if you know any VIPs, is what we call the people that would come and partake in the celebration, the special needs community, they're all going to be crowned prom king and prom queen. They'll be celebrated. If you know any VIPs, there's also a link there on our website where we can get them set up as well. This is something it's hard for me to talk about because it's near and dear to my heart. And in a time where there's so much going on around the world, what an awesome opportunity for us to come together and celebrate wonderful people with wonderful hearts right here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Pastor, would you again tell us what day
It
what day
is
the event is?
February 9th. Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. February 9th at 6:30 p.m. at College of the Mainland.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I believe that's all we have tonight, Kira. One online. Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Joseph Lowry, 2503 Cedar Drive.
Welcome, Joseph.
Pastor, what an amazing idea and event that you're putting on. I just want to comment on that. And also for fixing the leak in front of the rent house that was just mentioned. And but what I really want to talk about is some of my open records that I've had several meetings down at City Hall with council members, city manager, and I think they're coming up on a couple years old with absolutely zero response. Now, we know why the city doesn't want to respond to it, because it implicates several people in some very bad things, but it still needs to be turned over to me in a proper FOIA request that I've requested. The other thing I want to request again, and this is something that I was advised to do, is Mayor Bell, I would like you to step down due to your residency issue. You do not live in the city. You have not lived in the city. You
We're not Mr. Lowry.
This is where I speak.
We're not gonna make personal
Speak
attacks.
and you listen. This is where I
We're not
speak and you
gonna-
listen.
Mr.
This
Lowry,
is
we're
where
not-
I
we're
speak
not
and you
going to-
listen. This is where I speak
Not
and you
going to
listen.
make personal attacks.
Mr. Lowry.
This is not a personal.
The mayor spent, you need to let the mayor as the presiding officer speak.
We will not have, according to our rules, personal attacks. If you wish to proceed and reclaim your time, Mr. Lowry, you may do so, but we will not have personal
You are
attacks.
violating my civil rights once again.
We will
You
not
are
have
violating my
personal attacks.
civil
You may
rights once
proceed
again. I have 3 minutes. Now,
in the remainder of his time.
like I said, you do not live here. You have not
Mr.
lived
Lowry.
here.
Yeah.
Don't-
Mr. Lowry, I'm the presider.
Violating my
The
civil rights
rules-
again. This is my
I'm
3
the
minutes.
presider. Mr.
This is
Lowry,
my 3
we're gonna
minutes.
move on. I'm the presider. The
You're
rules
violating my
state
civil rights
that
again.
we
This is
will
my
not
3
have
minutes.
personal attacks.
Nope, this is not
Yeah. We will not have. personal
violating my
attacks.
civil rights. I have 3 minutes to speak. I would like to finish.
We need to move on. Again, for the record, the rules state, let's read them again. Comments from the public will be heard at this time. Any person with city-related business who has signed up may speak to council, limited to 3 minutes. If wishing to speak, you may give the mayor, the presiding officer, your full legal name, address, and item you wish to speak about. Compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed. And so that's where we are. Let's move forward. Kyle, if there's no other persons wishing to speak tonight, we will move now past citizens' request to item 6, minutes for meeting, 6-1, regular city council minutes, 1/8/2024. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Council, are there any corrections or omissions at this time? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 7, public hearings. Conduct public hearing to hear public input on 7-1, ordinance number letter O -2024-0001, creation of a heavy industrial zoning district. We will close the regular meeting at,
6:39.
we will open the public hearing at
6:39.
6:39. Are there any persons in the audience wishing to speak to ordinance letter O -2024-0001? Mr. Mitch Titch, you may approach. Mr. Stevenson and Mr. Honich, you may also come back if you'd like to speak at this time. Yes, Mr. Mistich.
Robert Mitch, 24 North Curly. I read through that ordinance. There's a lot of history to it. But what concern I have about it is when I read it, and maybe I've read it wrong and you can correct me, but it doesn't list boundaries for it. And we know what properties the railroad, purchased and everything and what, their plans are. But as this thing looks to be written, it would apply to the entire city, which means anybody or any business, if their property is such, they could apply for an operation for heavy industrial, and it could be spotted all around the city, and that could be a problem for residential growth or retail growth, because if somebody pops in I'll leave my descriptions out, but you know what I'm getting at. If it was focused towards the railroad, I would think we would put in a boundary area around it. Now, I think that if you're going to have it, I think that's one protection for the city that you might look at. Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. Gentlemen,
There was a woman in the back.
I'm sorry, it was someone in the, yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't see your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Brad Stevenson, 2603 Meadow Lane. I feel just like Mr. Midovich that that's a large chunk of land, very valuable, but where it is located and the presiding winds and those poor residents that are we know who all owns all the land over there. We can pretty much guess what they have in mind. So I just think that we need to be very proactive in adopting an ordinance that is going to be applied to that area. That's where everything is headed. So it just makes sense to me that we need to be very careful the way that we write this ordinance so that we don't ruin all of Old Lamarque and those poor folks down 519. I hear the trains in my house over behind McDonald's on Highway 3. And that's not even switching. When they start switching and they start banging, it's going to become intolerable. So that's that. I just really wish that council would try to narrow down some of the noise and environmental issues, because if you don't do it now, it's going to be a runaway train, and I just don't want to see Lamarque have that problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Honich. Yeah. Ms. McKenzie, is that you? You are so small in the back. You're so small in the back. I'm sorry. Welcome. Name and address for the record. I know you, but we need to know you as well.
Beatrice McKenzie, 404 Poplar Street, Lamarque. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. A council person. Those are in attendance. I'm here also for ordinance 2024-0001. I live in that immediate area. I am on the very last street in Lamarque, down on the dead end, closest to the golf course. I have lived there for over 30 years, and people ask me, why have I never moved? I say, because it's quiet. It's like living in the country, but I'm 5 minutes from everything. I'm on a dead end, no traffic, no crime. I love it there. Although they have me in a high flood area and it never floods. That's one of my concerns. If they have that zoned as a high flood area, what happens if it does flood for some reason? Although I've been there for over 30 years and it's never flooded. Also, the noise. I already have the noise from highway, the train that travels up Highway 3, as the gentleman over here mentioned. I think all the time, what would happen if we have a derailment right there at Highway 3? I'm not that far from that. Just putting this outfit together, building it, the noise from the construction. There's so many things to take into consideration, so many things. But yet they say, as long as we are 20 feet and more, not 20, 200, then we're fine. Who says we're fine? Would you want to live there? Would you want to live there? I mean, you know, we already have the train on Highway 3, so that is right in our neighborhood. I mean, it doesn't make sense. That's, to me, that's saying we don't care about the people that live over here. This is an old area anyway, you know, they're gonna be gone soon. That's what I think they're thinking, and don't let them treat us like that,
Yes, ma'am.
because that is our property and we pay taxes, although now if has anyone come to me and said, hey, we'd like to buy your property because we're gonna put up a facility over here? Maybe we'll consider that, but that has not been brought to us yet.
Wow.
So I think it's a, you know, not very thoughtful to even consider something like this, and you have a residential area right there. It's, how could you do that? It doesn't make sense. We already look at Houston, 5th Ward. Those people are fighting right now with the railroad company because it's a cancer cluster. So please don't do that to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKenzie. Any other persons wishing to speak on ordinance number letter O dash 2024 dash 0001? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Alan Honich, 2609 Meadow Lane, again in Lamarck. What she said about 5th Ward Cancer Cluster. Also, there's another city that y'all should consider also that's come into the news, East Palestine, Ohio. That area is so polluted now because of the explosions that the railroad company had on their tracks in that city, that those residents are still having trouble to be able to move back in. If that's the future y'all want to give Lamarck, then go ahead and vote this into your ordinance. Also, in that area, which I know she may not have mentioned this, but there's about 20 to 25 personal wells in that area that the people get their groundwater to take care of their gardens and to take care of their land around there. And if the city shuts the water off, at least they have backup water if they have a main break. Well, they can't drink that water if the railroad company or whoever gets their industrial out there decides to pollute it. Yes, it says it's going to be a 6-foot it's going to be a retention pond with 6-foot deep thickness of clay. Guys, summers eat clay up. Clay is not a preventative for water leaks. That's why the city is having to replace a bunch of the pipes and stuff, because there are old clay pipes throughout the city. Well, guess what? There's clay that they're wanting to use for a retention pond. That's part of what Mr. Stevens said about the pollution in the area. Besides noise, it's also an EPA environmental headache. We've already cleaned up one site around that area in the Texas City area. Why should Lamarck invite another one into its city limits? Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments on ordinance letter O dash 2024 dash 0001? Any more comments on item 7271, creation of a heavy industrial zoning district. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing at
6:49.
6:49. We'll reopen the regular meeting at
6:49.
let's move past item 8 and reach down to get item 9, which is old business ordinance number letter O-2024-0001 so that we can continue this discussion. Let me say this to you, gentlemen, those of you that have served on our planning and zoning commission. We thank you for your service. Certainly, you have done your due diligence. Let me speak for this council. We have not, with any intention, tried to go against any of your recommendations or go around any of your recommendations. One of the things that I believe we could have benefited from more was more of the minutes of your meetings so that we can understand clearer what the issues were between planning and zoning and this entire process. This council has acted in a way that we felt at the time on last meeting was in the best interests of our community. Now, we are hearing that there is more information. Mr. Stevenson, and I'll open this up to the rest of our council, but you said to us, let me go back to see if I can remember. You said that there's an opportunity for us to do it right if we do it together. Mr. Harnish, do you believe that as well? Is there opportunity for us all to work together to find a resolution, whatever that is?
As long as you don't go into the second reading in this bill, on this ordinance, and you get more input from the citizens or form a committee with the citizens of the citizens of Lamar, as well as the planning and zoning commission, along with representatives from the city council. At that point, yes, you should be able to talk it over, build what you need to build, and then if it meets all the criteria, then put it to a vote to the citizens of the city of Lamar, and not the city council to make that final decision. At that point, yes, I would stand behind you and support you, but not without that reference.
Absolutely. I'm willing to go that route with you. I'm willing to take the extra step to make sure that yourself, this council, the rest of our community are represented. Again, Mr. Stevenson said, perhaps we can do this together. And so I'm willing to do that. Again, I'm one vote, I'm one person. Let's hear from the rest of the council. Before we do that, Gus, do you have any information that you'd like to add? Any points of clarification to?
Absolutely, Mayor. So, again, I would just like to iterate, this is not something new. This is something that, and this is not something that this council came up with. This is a process that started with the EDC and the city council back in 2016. It's been going on for 8 years. That's how there, as former council member Mitch Stitch said, there's been a lot of history, but it's been going on for 8 years. It's not new. The other thing I would point out, what council is doing today, or should council pass this ordinance on first reading, or I'm sorry, on second reading? All that would do is create a zone in the city of Lamarque, Texas. The city of Lamarque would then have a heavy industrial zone. That is something that is present in your neighboring cities. Texas City has it, Webster has it, that they are present. But no property in the city of Lamar, should council vote in the affirmative today, there would be no property that is zoned heavy industrial if you vote yes tonight. Now, nobody, and I hope it's been clear from me, from my colleague, John Hightower, we don't want to hide the ball. We all know that the railroad is going to come forward. That's why these people are here and asked to rezone the golf course, that accompanying area, as heavy industrial. The city is party to a settlement agreement that speaks to what is gonna happen should that happen. You know, as far as, so, but to the boundary concerns themselves, there are no boundaries referenced in this ordinance because nothing's being rezoned. Should someone come forward, when someone does, and ask for their property to be rezoned, that property that should, because council will still have the absolute right to not do it. Should that happen, then, but should the rezone occur, then it would be the boundaries that are requested. But no one's property is being rezoned tonight. As far as Houston and the problems there, I'm not going to say Houston doesn't have its land use issues. Houston also doesn't have zoning. And so there is that. What we tried to do with this ordinance is look at what has worked other places near us. And what we found was that buffer zones are effective. You know, as has been said, there is a Superfund site right next door to this. It's in Lamarque. It's there. You know, back in 2016, I think, and I wasn't here, but I think the thought process was, how do we develop this large vacant tract of land? And what would go there? I mean, unfortunately, it's low line. Residential development's going to be tough because of the floodplain. It just is. And so because of that, I would surmise that's how this heavy industrial use came about, and that it's near the railroad. It's adjacent to the railroad. The city, of course, has a noise ordinance. The noise ordinance, nothing in this ordinance exempts a heavy industrial zone property from the city's noise ordinances. Those are in effect. So those would continue. Should there be noise issues? One of the ways we tried to mitigate the noise concerns was to talk about what could be done in the buffer zones, because obviously, I mean, backup alarms are loud. Backup alarms at 6 a.m. are loud. Well, so that's why we tried to curtail the use in those zones to get those away from, I mean, it's 500 feet from residences, 250 feet from commercial, but to try to insulate and provide a large buffer for those neighbors. And the other thing I would say, I mean, as I said, you know, we all know the railroad's going to come and ask to rezone their property. We know that. Well, one of the things the railroad is going to have to do is when they come, they're going to have to tell y'all why and what does the city get. And the other thing they're going to have to do is come here and show, okay, here's our tract. We have kind of like a rectangle, a trapezoid, something. Well, now we got to shrink down because we have this, but really all we can develop on because of the zoning ordinance that has the buffer is shrink that down and show the council and show the community. But that job of coming and actually talking about the specific development, they have to come and convince you all and the community. This is just talking about the proposed uses. But as the citizens have asked, the job of selling it, that's on whoever wants to rezone their property. They've got to come and as not to hopefully put Alpha and Omega Power on the spot here, but one of the things you're going to hear from them tonight when they come to ask you for a CUP is they're going to tell you is they're going to do exactly that. So again, not to put y'all on the spot or drag y'all into this.
Let's get council in first. First thoughts, and then we'll bring you all back in. Council, first thoughts.
Do what? No, the railroad people are not here because when they ask to rezone their property, they will be here.
I feel like we need more input from the citizens, and if that's something that needs to go to vote, I mean, that's my feeling on it.
Yes, ma'am. Joe, do you have anything?
Yeah, a lot.
Go ahead, Joe.
I started this discussion last meeting, right?
Yes,
And,
sir.
actually suggested that perhaps ask us if there was any reason why we shouldn't perhaps table it and bring back. There is a bit of urgency. And this always comes back for, I'm a very straightforward. The settlement agreement that the city entered into is a public document now. It's open records. Little history. I was not on this council when the issue arose. And that was part of the Economic Development Corporation. Ultimately, the city got involved as well in this lawsuit that was filed by Texas City Railroad. And as we looked at the facts as the information was provided to us, a lot of this in closed session, but now, as I said, it's a public document in terms of the settlement portion. We became aware of some liability, significant liability that the city had. And how are we going to get out of this? How are we going to resolve this issue when we don't have the financial wherewithal in the event that we're tagged with a significant financial liability if this were to go to trial. And as a result, there was a mediation that was scheduled. The city manager, the mayor, and myself participated in that mediation. It was long. It was a mediation that was at times heated. Neither side, I think, got everything that they wanted to, but there was a framework for a settlement. And with the ultimate goal of protecting, and I go back to this part, of protecting the greater portion of the golf course site. And that golf course site is that's where the value as far as the city of Lamarque is concerned, especially, and our Alex Getty, the executive director of the EDC, is here, especially along the I-45 portion. And now, having said that, the lawsuit and what has occurred during that process, ultimately, the city of Lamarque is the owner of the land at this point. Is that accurate to say as a result of the settlement?
As a result of the settlement, certain property would come back to the city.
And I say would, and it's a process, right, in terms of this settlement. Would. The first part is this particular establishment of and I want to be clear to Gus, we don't have a heavy industrial. We're just establishing, and I said this last meeting, we're just establishing a heavy industrial zoning category.
Correct.
Now I do, and I'm going to repeat one area that I pointed out last time, is that I firmly believe that this needs to be restricted if we take action here, the second reading here, restricted to just this area over here of the golf course. It's not anything that, as I said, there was an attempt in the past to do oil well on right near the Sam's Club many years ago, and that would have required the change of a zoning category. So I don't want to see any of that. This is particular to this particular situation. And furthermore, in terms of final outcomes of the settlement, the area we're talking about is significantly reduced. It's not, let's get this out of the way, it's not the whole golf course site. It is actually, you look there at the area, and I went by there today too, you've got the railroad that goes through there. And actually right now, this afternoon, that railroad was surrounded by water on both sides. Normally only one side is, and the other side is dry. So the basis of the settlement is that railroad, notwithstanding what our desires are as a municipality or even the state of Texas, the federal law preempts both the municipalities and the state law with regard to certain development rights.
That is absolutely correct. Yes, the city's laws would be preempted by federal law. Yes.
And then, so that's number one. And I came to understand that. I looked at that and I said, well, they don't really need our permission to do something. Now, what they do need, however, we have the noise ordinance, other things like that, buffer zones, but they need to present us a plan. And the railroad has never, I'll take it back. Initially, when this whole litigation started, there was an idea of some sort of tank farm, I believe. There was some, as was explained to me. That's not the case anymore that I'm aware of. They haven't come back to us in any way, shape, or form to say, here's what we want to do. But if we're going to finalize this settlement, if we're going to take this burden away from potentially all of us as residents of taxpayers of the city of Lamarque, there's this next step that we need to take is to establish this heavy zoning category. The category. We're not saying that is the area. We're not saying that anybody is suggesting anything going to be done in that area at this point. There's nothing like that on that side. If we take the next step here with regard to this particular action this evening. And is that accurate what I said, Council?
Yes, that is correct, Mayor Pro Tem.
I will say this in terms of discussions. There was some discussion, and I'm not sure if it's even an option of saying, but certainly the railroad was informed of this. There could be a vote at some point if the council decided to, once you come back with a plan.
Yes, when the railroad comes or anyone comes to y'all with a plan, y'all are free to talk to them about
that.
Exactly that.
And what approach we're going to take and things of that nature. So that's there's significant liability here that I feel that we have, from my particular background too, that we've managed to limit our residents and certainly on my part, it's just my background. I'm not one who takes lightly threats to our environment and that aspect of it. There's a quality of life that we have here. That's all I have right now, Mayor.
Thank you, Joe. Ladies and gentlemen, to my left.
So let me just say, since I've been elected, this has been a major issue. The last 2.5 years, and it has been very difficult to get to this point. And to Joe's point, there is a liability on the city because of the previous decisions from the previous council that we are in this predicament. Now, what I understand is what you're saying is that we are just at point A when it comes to just saying that this is an area where we can do a different type of business, right?
That is correct.
Right. The next step, to your point, Ms. McKenzie, if someone does come to say, this is what I want to do, then that's when we have the input from the citizens, all of that. But I do think that we need to make this a teachable moment, to your point, because this is your district, to let the residents know what that liability is going to be.
I would say this, Councilwoman, it's always difficult to say with 100% certainty.
Right.
What I would say is this, the city received from the railroad, the city and EDC received $1.5 million. And part of that was that there would be a tank farm allowed. Now, or if the city were to not do that, then it is foreseeable that the railroad would ask for that money back. And that was $1.5 million in 2016. It could be more now with interest.
So that's a liability.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, ma'am. We're gonna let council see if Mr. Ross or Ms. Yancey has any more. Then we're gonna open it back up to those of you that live in that area or certainly are on the committee that dealt with this issue.
Because I would like everyone to know, especially for you that live in the area and to my neighbors on Meadow Lane, this is something that has taken a lot of work to unravel us in as a city. Lamarque is hot property. We're the hot city right now in Galveston County. And so people are looking to invest and to bring business, but we're not at that point yet. We're at the point where we're doing the heavy industrial, correct? And then if they come back, then that's when we can have more citizen input. We will have this. When I looked at the ordinance, the buffer is in there.
It is.
There's a buffer in there because I know that's what, when we discussed it, some of the same issues you've brought up, that's what we said as well. You all know I understand what's happening with the Fifth Ward in Houston. We do know about those cancer clusters. And during the time when Casey was on the council, that was a big concern for her as well. So I don't want you to think that we're going into, this has been a very long process trying to understand it. And we're just now at the first part for the heavy industrial. But I do think, Mayor, I agree with you. Since this is your, whatever, I'm going to go with what you deem, and I know you're new, you weren't there the whole time. It's been a lot of painstaking work to get this done. But I do think the mayor needs to make this a teachable moment and understand, let the residents see what we are trying to unravel ourselves out of so that they'll understand our vote.
Thank you, Ms. Yancey. Mr. Ross?
Honestly, everybody has said pretty much the same thing. And with Ms. Allred, I hear from everybody in that district because I spend a lot of time over at the VFW over there. I have really good friends that live off Poplar that I visit periodically. And Walnut and Sixth. And the main concerns I hear are, what are the city going to do about the sewer pipe that runs through there? Are we going to have access to certain things still there? How are we going to help fight fires? Are we going to be able to get, I've tried to explain to people that we're just creating a zone. There's no property that will have this designation until somebody comes and asks us to create their property as a heavy industrial. I think the city is primed to have some heavy industrial, but some of the stuff that is prohibited inside the ordinance, I think we need to relook at: aviation, space, power, utilities. We are primed to get some good renewable energy suppliers in the area, but this is what was decided well before my time here. And I think the handshake deal and plans that were done in 2016, we need to follow through so that everybody is to where it needs to be. And then when it comes to them making the decision what they're going to do, this is our guideline on what our minimum requirements are for a heavy industrial. What are we going to make them do to make it even safer as we go on?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Gentlemen, lady, did you want to come back into the discussion? Ms. McKenzie, did you want to add? If you do, you'll have to approach. Yes, ma'am. Gentlemen.
Just a short note, Mayor.
So Brad Stevenson, 2603 Meadow Lane. So I understand that the powers that be way a long time ago made some poor decisions. It's obvious. But without Gus just said a while ago, you know, once we create this heavy industrial and once the railroad gets it, then they're gonna come under federal regulations. Our noise ordinance, our pollution ordinance, EPA, what you're gonna do is you're gonna hand the regulation of all of that property over to the federal government and the railroad lobby. So I just gotta say, if you think they're gonna be worried about the citizens of Lamarck and not their almighty dollar, then, you know, I just really want us to get the ordinance right. If we don't protect the citizens with the ordinance, then we've lost the battle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevenson. Mr. Harnish, you may have,
Can you address those?
approach.
He's talking about the noise ordinance that still applies.
Yeah, we will. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Alan Hodge, 2609 Meadow Lane, Lamarck. Your council brought up a very good subject just a few minutes ago. One of the council members brought the same subject up. Guess what? They're in a floodplain, people. Liquefied sulfur forms solid sulfur on an outside of a railroad car. They're not clean when they leave Galveston. They come through the city of Lamarck with that stuff on it. It rains, sulfur comes down, lands on the ground. It's sulfuric acid. It eats up stuff. They're going to be parking these train cars and stuff out there. It's going to rain on them. Oh, we got a retention. No, you don't. If you got one side of the railroad that's usually flooded and the other side isn't, but then you went by the other day or yesterday or today, and both sides are almost flooded, how are you going to protect the citizens against pollution coming into the city? Oh, if you have a car that explodes out there, believe me, the only place that's going to be able to help us is going to be those refineries in Texas City. Yes, that's heavy industrial out there, but guess what, people? That's been heavy industrial since the 30s. This is not the 1930s. This is 2024. I ran 4 different businesses in my lifetime. If I made a business decision and it cost me money, I ate it. So tell the railroad company, they made a business decision. It's time for them to either put up or shut up. And it's also time for the city council to do what we just discussed. Let the citizens of this city decide if we want this heavy industrial built or not, or to put the ordinance in it. It should be the citizens that decide this, not the city council, because it affects the citizens of this city. And ladies and gentlemen of the council, I'm sorry if I raise my voice, but I'm very adamant about this. I grew up in the 70s. I'm not politically correct. I call it like I see it. And Mayor Bell, you know that for a fact, because you and I've had some discussions in the past. And it had nothing to do with the city. It had to do with an organization I represent. Okay? So please let the citizens decide their future. You're not in charge of our future. We are. And like I said before, if you go against the citizens, you might as well resign because you're not doing the will of the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harnish. Mr. Campion, go ahead.
I want to follow up. I've got to follow up. Number one, I'm not going to resign. I'll just make it very clear. Okay. I want to say, I have to say this. The decision to permit this was taken in 2016. You see, that's when this started. That decision was taken then. And as a result, we became this city, those in charge then became aware that you don't have the authority to do that. You don't have the authority to say, go ahead and build this Texas City, what is it, Texas City Railway?
Texas City Terminal Railway.
Texas City Terminal Railway. You don't have a City of Lamarck, you can't do that, right? That's the beginning of the issue. And then the railway said, wait a minute, you guys said this is what you promised us. So why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and see what a court's going to say about this? Why don't we see what a jury has to say about this? And therein began this process. Okay. And then we had newer people come in. Then I came in. I think Robert stepped off about that time too, because Robert was on when I came in originally, and so became aware of this. In my first regard, I said, oh my God, how do we even get in this situation here? So ideally where we're at is that we have to take, if we're going to fulfill this settlement, where we get this liability, we have to take a good faith step. A good faith step. And the good faith step, and we said this to the railway, we can't control what, it's only me. I can't control what the mayor thinks and the other members of council. There has to be this majority vote on this issue. But in terms of this good faith step, that's what this is, to create a heavy industrial so that we fulfill the most important term of the settlement agreement. That's the most important. There is they have not presented at any time during the discussions that were about any sort of plan. They have not. Right now, let me finish. They have not. So if we're going to get, which I hope, council, we can get behind on this lawsuit for the benefit of the city of Lamarck, because we don't have the money. We do not have the money with regard to potential liabilities here. And go read the initial filing. You'll see what was represented. It's public document there. Okay. And so this action, if we approve it, this step, this creation of this heavy industrial is a good faith effort to say, as a council, we're doing what we can do in good faith to fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement. Now, we're not saying to the Railroad Commission, Mayor and council members, you can go ahead and do whatever you want to out there.
Not saying that.
We were not saying that. As a matter of fact, if and when they present a plan, and this speaks to you, Ms. Levitt, at that point, me personally, I will be encouraging council to say, I don't want to have anything to do with it in terms of the decision. We need to present that to the residents of Lamarck in terms of a referendum. Is that acceptable for this community? Because that's when a referendum, and this is once again me saying, but in terms of the first step tonight, the good faith effort we've done, and now and correct me if I'm wrong, Gus, we said we have no control over. I have no control over what the desire of all my other council persons are, or more importantly, what the citizens, the voters of Lamarck have to say with regard to the possibility of a project out there. Am I accurate in saying this, Gus? You've heard me?
I would say if you had that ability, Mayor Pro Tem, but no, you are just one of 5 votes.
And so having said that, I am well aware of the liability that we face. I will be voting in favor of proceeding on this as a second step. But understand that if and when the railroad comes with a plan, my standard is totally different. We're showing our good faith. That's all.
Very good. We're going to get one more comment from the audience, and then we'll move forward. Yes, I need you to approach let's get this on the record. Thank you.
What are they for?
Brad Stevenson, 2603 Meadow Lane. So, Mr. Compion, I totally understand where you're coming from. The city has to be acting in good faith with along the lines of this deal in order to try to avoid a large liability. I totally get that. But if we pass this proposal as written, all of the protections that I mentioned earlier are out the window. So that means that the citizens are gonna, the way this thing is written right now, no citizen can approve it. I thought we were gonna try to get together and to mediate and negotiate and try to write a proposal that we thought the railroad could live with and the citizens could live with. I really thought that when this meeting first started, that was the way we were headed, and that was encouraging. But now it seems like we've shot off to the right. This is just a proposal. We're not approving anything. Actually, the proposal as written is, if y'all approve that, then that's just step one of two. And I just really hope y'all decide that a compromise on the proposal would be in a better light. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Let me say this, a lot has been said about this, the action that council took in 2016. I was a member of that council. Let me shed some light on what those discussions were about. First and foremost, the council of 2016 did not want a tank farm. I have never been a part of a council that has ever wanted a tank farm on that property. We were told during that time that because it was the railroad and it was transportation and commerce, the big powerful railroad, that our chances to be able to stop them from, because they had already accumulated property, right? They owned that property, right? Our opportunity to stop that would be futile. And so that council went about trying in our own way to protect the citizens, the residents of Lamarque, evidenced by two things. Evidenced by the $1 million permit fee, which was to be earmarked to provide public safety, right? You have a tank farm, you need more firefighters, you need ladder trucks, you need more EMS workers, you need more police officers, right? And we can't afford that, and the city our size can't afford that. So we were trying to find a way to provide resources for our citizens. The second reason we know that we didn't want any tank farms is because I believe we had it in the permit that they would have to paint murals on the tanks because we knew that they would be an eyesore. We didn't want to have any parts of it. We were advised that it would be inevitable. And so we went about our business trying to provide as much protection as possible under the advice of our attorney at the time. Since then, we found out that those actions and that council was advised improperly. And we sit here today because of that. We've been advised, I've been advised as a mayor to not take leadership on this because this has been a logjam. Everyone has said this on this council tonight. This has been a logjam on our council for years. And there were folks that have advised myself as mayor and us as a council not to take leadership on this, but we disagree. We are the council. We are the elected body of the residents of this city, and we are here to do all of the citizens' business, whether it be easy or hard. And so we begun that process. Mr. Compion joined myself in negotiating a settlement. Mr. Knable was there with us in negotiating a settlement in good faith. Now, we have to find a resolution. However, one of the things that I never want to do, and that I don't advise any elected official to do, is to go before their community. And it sounds like not only appointed members of our Planning and Zoning Committee feel great concern about this ordinance as it is written, but also members of our community feel great concern about this ordinance as it is written. Those are two powerful witnesses that I cannot ignore. I heard you say that there is a possibility for us to resolve this and to do it in a way that would benefit all involved. I'm willing to take your offer on that. And I am going to be asking this council to table this ordinance so that we can find a meeting of the mind, so that our residents are represented, so that they're heard, so that Ms. Allred, who is a new member of this council, can get up to speed on this issue so that she can represent her constituency properly, right? And so that we can make sure that everyone understands what we're trying to do moving forward. Again, the last thing I want to say to us is this council has moved forward with the first reading simply because we believe that it will ultimately be inevitable to fight the railroad. We have that belief. They are a behemoth, and they would probably crush us as a small entity. However, that does not negate the opportunity for us to work together to make this as painless as possible. And so, council, I'll ask if there are any other comments. If not, hearing none, Gus.
Just very briefly, not to throw him, but John Hightower is the counsel for the city in the litigation. He is here now if council has any specific questions for him.
Ms. Hightower, you may approach, sir. We were just about to. I don't know that we do. Certainly, I wanted to offer you to the council. Certainly, council, do we have any questions for Mr. Hightower?
So I guess I'm going to ask the same question I had last week when I brought up the possibility of tabling. Will this be detrimental to the settlement agreement? This is the passage of this would be a good faith compliance with the settlement agreement. If we table this, number one, do we have to bring this back for a first and second reading? That's my first question.
No, it would just have to come back for second reading again, assuming no substantial change, and you do the second reading within, I believe, 120 days of the first reading.
Okay.
And tabling will not jeopardize the settlement.
Well, I can't say that it won't. I think depends on what the delay is in finally making a decision. There's been a lot of patience involved in this, and at some point in time, maybe it runs out. But we're in a situation was created by the actions back in 2016. There was money that exchanged hands, and if the city isn't able to resolve it in this fashion, the other option, the most likely option, is to unwind the deal, which means, as I understand it, the city's going to have to come up with over $1 million to give back to the entity. So if you want this matter to be ultimately resolved, you need to take some kind of action. If you're going to delay it till, y'all meet twice a month or once?
Twice a month.
If you're delaying it 2 weeks, I don't think that's gonna
Yeah.
kill the deal, but it may reduce the optimism of the other side that it's eventually going to happen. And, our concern is if they just give up and say, okay, we got to go some other way, then some point in time, we're not going to get them back to the table. Because remember, this is from 2016. This is a 7-8-year-old problem. The lawsuit was actually filed by the EDC, the current lawsuit, but it's likely that the railroad would have sued us eventually. So, I mean, all I can say is it would be better if you took action tonight, but I cannot say that it would kill the deal if you delayed it for a few weeks or longer than that. It's the ultimate result that matters.
Yeah. Well, I think that we have a new representative of that district. Councilwoman Allred has been here all of about a month. And this lawsuit, to your point, has been since 2016. And so clearly that in my opinion, would be a reason to allow for us to regroup for 2 weeks to get our planning and zoning committee on the same page with our council, to get the residents in that area on the same page with both of the entities I just mentioned. That's valuable to us as a council, or certainly to myself as a member of this council.
Yeah, well, I can't argue against trying to get information from those two entities. But you're the ultimate decision makers on this, and you will always have more information than the rest of the world. And it's up to you to do what you think is best in the best interest of the city. But you're the only entity equipped to do that ultimately. Planning and Zoning Commission is strictly advisory on zoning changes. Your citizens are worthy. You want to listen to your citizens and have concern for their concerns. But again, you're the only one that's this group is the only one that's gonna have full information about the impact of this decision on the future of the city.
Thank you for that. Again, council, we've heard that 2-week pause on this will not hurt us. Certainly, again, Councilwoman Allred has just said to us as a council that she would want to defer to citizens and to residents to see what they feel and how they feel about it. And I tend to agree. 2 weeks won't hurt this. And I believe we can get a lot of this resolved within 2 weeks. Hearing nothing, I will entertain a motion. Joe, did you want to make a motion to approve? Before I make this motion to table or no?
No, I was.
Thank you.
To do that last time.
I will make a motion for us to table this and bring this back for our first meeting in February.
A second.
There is no discussion on table. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, council. Now we are at item 8. City manager's report, submitted report to update council and community on the standard of operations. The city report can be acknowledged as a whole or discussed at the pleasure of council. Council, there is no action on this item. Are there any of these items we would like to pull for discussion? Hearing none, Caesar, would you like to highlight any items?
Certainly, Mayor. Thank you. We would like to bring forward, if there's any questions or anything about the audit findings report. Our finance director, Ms. Christine Turner, is here. Should any questions arise about that, pretty self-explanatory. This is her action plan as to how we will address the items that came up on the actual audit, the findings that we will address. As she mentioned, she has already created a plan and she's already trying to march that plan out, but that was just more for your information as was requested to have that presented to council in writing. The next item I'd like to bring out to your attention is item 8.5.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Just an observation. We passed a resolution approving the audit last meeting with the notes. The posting that we have at our website does not include the notes.
I see that Ms. Turner's here. I'll make sure we
Okay.
acknowledge that and
So
we'll make sure that it does have the
it-
correct posting posted. Thank you. Next item I want to bring to your attention is item 8.5. We have Alex Getty here tonight to talk to us about the Economic Development Corporation. As you remember, when we had our joint meeting, we said we would want to come forward with some quarterly updates. I'd like to welcome forward, should you have some information to share for us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Alex Getty, Marque Economic Development Corporation. Included in your packet is roughly a 30-page report. Along with that, we included a supplemental report that had to do with public relations side of things. Be happy to answer any questions or field any thoughts or comments that you may have this evening about the report.
Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Getty?
No, I thought it was very good.
Thank you.
It's very
Appreciate that.
informative.
Did you have a slide presentation, Alex?
Well, this is just a supplemental report to supplement the report in full. This is a lot of the things that we've been working on as far as the marketing side of the house. And there's videos and hyperlinks and all those things if you want to watch those. But these are things that have been put on the city website, YouTube, Facebook page, oftentimes shared by the city, I-45 now that we partner with. So this is just kind of a suite of things that we've done to market our businesses in Lamar.
And Mayor, if I can, one of the ideas is as we present these quarterly reports is to put them, make them available for public view as well, so that they will have a resource to go on a quarterly basis to see other things that have been accomplished.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
And next item we have Chief Aragon would like to come forward. He would like to share his item, our crime statistics. We were able to accomplish getting those taken care of. And he has a presentation he'd like to share.
Kyle, you gonna show that?
Chief, you can go ahead and
Yeah,
start
let me-
while we
let me
pull
just
it up.
Give you the big overview. Regardless of the factors that cause crime, which we covered that a couple of meetings ago, of the 13 factors that cause crime, and I mentioned this morning at our kickoff meeting for the business corridor north. We've got 13 factors that cause crime. We have control of 2. That's the effective strength of the police department, and number 2, the emphasis placed on our investigative status and the administrative part of the police department. So we only have 2. There's 11 factors, and regardless of that, I'll give you the overall picture of crime in the last 3 years: 21, 22, and 23. Violent crimes down 11%. Property crimes down 20%. And overall crime 19%. That's pretty phenomenal when you talk about everything
That's the last 3 years?
Sir?
The last 3 years?
The last 3 years, 21, 22, and 23 calendar years, which we work with calendar years. I know Christine does the fiscal year, but we work with calendar years. Violent crime's been down 11%, property crime 20%, and overall crime, that's those 2 put together, 19%. That's amazing.
That's since the Safe City Initiative?
Yes, sir. Since we started the Safe City Initiative, which really, that's, it's awesome. I owe a lot of it to I just point the way. I thank my officers for doing all the work they're doing. But once again, socioeconomic reasons, poverty, unemployment, low income, education, all these factors that cause crime, we're doing better. That's things that, of course, EDC has a lot to do with it. The mayor's programs have a lot to do with that. And until we fully enhance all these other factors, such as cities like Frisco and Friendswood and Lake City, we're really behind the 8 ball. But I must say again, it's phenomenal we're doing what we're doing with what we have. So we could flip through this. Tyler, you ready? No, okay, well, I'll just cover it. The key thing is 11, 20, and 19. If you remember that, 11 reduction in the violent crime rate over the last 3 years. That's the average. 20% reduction in property crime, and overall, if you count both of them, 19%. And that's the key. We're up. We've increased our DWIs. We've increased our drug arrests, and our calls for service, even though we've reduced crime, that's gone up about 3%. And that's in that, you see it in the little PowerPoint put together. So everything's going good. I trust that we'll continue to do that with your support, with the finances that we need to run the police department. But once again, we have to increase and enhance our city's
socioeconomic status. And I think Al was gone, but that's things he's doing, and that's things the mayor's doing. And council, of course, to give us the added things to, reduce crime, okay? Any questions?
Yeah, Chief, I have a question. I wrote it down earlier and I can't bring it back up, but how was the partnerships with the different memorandums of understandings that you have with how are those partnerships going? Is that helping?
Going really well.
Okay.
You remember we started with the Resource Crisis Center.
Right.
They're there 2 days a week, 8 hours, twice a week. In fact, Dina Ramos is down there today. She spent 8 hours today, and she actually rode with our officers. RCC handles three functions. Number one, family violence issues. Number two, sexual assault issues. And number three, human trafficking. So she's going out, and there's 3 of them now that work with us.
Okay.
The other one is, and by the way, we're going to cover this coming up with a little Mark Safe City Initiative summit or follow through. Mayor requested it. We're working with the Gulf Coast Center.
Right.
Gulf Coast Center handles the mental issues.
Right.
They were providing somebody a couple of days a week. We worked on that, and there wasn't enough work for them. So what we're doing right now is they've given us an email and an actual email address that we can use when we have issues. We're working really close with them. We have an MOU with mental health. I had a meeting just recently with Big Brothers Big Sisters. We're working with them. We're working with the TAPS program, the TAPS grant. So we're really a lot of things going on with things that are not law enforcement related, but it's helping us with all these other factors that help our community. So I hope that answers your question, Councilwoman.
Yeah, it did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Chief, I have 3 things. Please explain what this 180% increase from theft from coin-operated machinery. What are we talking about? We went up on the number, which is not, I mean, it's not a significant number, but
let's see.
But the percentage under larceny and theft offenses.
Is it one of those slides? Or
I don't know.
It's
It
in the
looks like it's
report.
page number 2 in your report. I'm just wondering, what is that? Is that our little game room stuff?
Offense arrests have increased 190%.
Theft, I don't know, theft from coin operated machinery is the category.
Oh, okay. That's on that side here.
It's on the slide.
Theft from coin operated machinery. $179.37.
Isn't that-
I'd have to check on that, but we have.
That's fine, Chief, just come, I'm want to know what is that?
I
What's the
think that's,
coin operated?
vending machines and so forth like that.
When I see coin operated, what immediately comes to mind is the game room.
It could be.
Machines.
We had some an aggravated robbery. Oh,
No,
there it is.
it's the next one.
It's on the second, Kyle, go back to that. It's the second page of that,
Yeah,
somewhere down there.
on the second
On the
column.
right.
And Chief, I also want to comment, and this is an objective that we had, but the theft from shoplifting, we knew that was our biggest category because both the municipal court
Right.
was tied up with the practice of Walmart to prosecute 100% of all shoplifting. But I note here that there's a reduction in the shoplifting charges. So I knew you were going to follow up with something, but congratulations on that.
We've worked with the regional director and talked to him on different methods. In fact, he was at the meeting this morning.
Yeah.
They're really cracking down. They've increased their staff somewhat, maybe 1 or 2 people. But
property crimes down, and it's a lot of it's shoplifting. That's most of what we have as far as theft is shoplifting, and of course it's Walmart and Sam's.
Yeah.
Mainly, but we've talked to him. We've talked about different strategies. I think we mentioned it this morning. Walmart has realized that the self-checkout is not as efficient, because when they weigh the cost of salesperson, clerks against that, they're losing a lot. So there a lot of, as you mentioned this morning, a lot of Walmart stores are doing away with self-checkout.
Good, they need to.
And, because the shrinkage, they want to have about 1% shrinkage, and some stores have had 4 and 5 and 6 up to 8%, which is really bad. So we might see that happen. And I know a lot of people don't like doing it. It's just, irritating, but they're losing a lot because of that. So, but property's down, property crime's down quite a bit, and a lot of it is shoplifting.
Good. Well, congratulations on that. That was a goal. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chief, what constitutes a robbery?
Forcing a human being to give up something that they own, either by weapon or force. That's a robbery. So I've had people tell me their house has been robbed. No, that's a burglary. When you physically take something from somebody with the use of force, that is robbery. And it could be with a weapon or force, just by your hands or threats. So that's considered a Part 1 crime, which is one of the factors that we report: forcible rape, robbery, aggravated assault, murder, larceny, auto theft, and burglary. That's the major crimes.
Where in our crime statistics, where have we found robberies to most commonly occur? Are they in these coin operated game rooms? Are they in commercial establishments?
Just off the top of my head, most of the robberies we have probably split between the humans. I mean, two people.
Two people
citizens,
just coming into each
give up
other's
your
path?
money. Yeah, it's because we've had our share of robberies of businesses. But it's probably split between two individuals, one robbing the other through the force. We had an aggravated robbery with use of force at a game room within the last few months, but typically it's about 50-50, I'd say.
Would you say, last question, would you say that the majority of robberies, or maybe you wouldn't say, I'm just curious, robberies occur between the perpetrator and the victim? They know each other, maybe, perhaps?
That's probably a 50-50 also. A robs B and knows him, and then sometimes they know each other. It's a fight, they give it up. But look, with our camera systems and so forth, it's pretty we do solve a lot of them based on that, even though they're wearing all these hoodies and masks and so forth now. It's being solved.
Thank you, Chief. Any more questions for Chief Argon? Thank you, Chief. Good job.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
we will also make sure that this is available for the public as well, and it'll be showed and showcased. Thank you.
Okay.
That concludes-
Last thing, Caesar, on this item, these crime statistics, where did we get those numbers from?
As all of our stats, when it comes to crime stats, all come from our League City Consortium. If you remember, it was Detective Kellerman. Am I saying his name right? Came forward presenting to you from League City. We are one of many cities who are part of this consortium. That is where the data comes from, and we directly plug it into our systems for sharing.
The city of League City?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Item 10, new business. Items presented to council for discussion and possible action. We've already dealt with item 9.1, so we're moving to item 10. Item 10.1, proposed ordinance, issuance of a conditional use permit for a battery energy storage system located on parcel 304-858 on FM 1764. This is the first reading. Mr. Garcia.
Certainly, I'd like to bring Kathleen forward, who this is our item, and also bring the group up who's here representing tonight for any questions that may be offered. And I would ask for Kathleen to introduce the group properly.
We want to welcome those that are here on this line item.
Good evening, council. I'd like to introduce Alpha Omega Power. They are asking for a conditional use permit for a 400 megawatt or 200 megawatt
200 megawatt.
battery storage facility on FM 1764. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then, yeah, Simon LaBrosse, Jelena, do you guys need address? Yeah.
No,
So, along with me, our team of Dino Merrigan, he's the landowner. Guillaume Dufay, he's SVP of EPC and development. And then Georgia Meisler, Director of Development. I'm the developer on the project. We also had scheduled to have our fire safety engineer here virtually. He's actually in Australia training first responders. He had a 2-hour window and unfortunately that lapsed. So if there's any question concerning that we can't answer, if we can table that and then we'll get you guys answers after that, that would be great. Perfect. So yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I'm here to introduce and request approval for Virtu Energy Storage Project. It's a 200 megawatt battery energy storage facility on a 6-acre portion of a 46-acre lot. We already discussed the location. It's currently zoned C4 commercial interstate, as you guys know. It is also subject to the thoroughfare overlay district. We previously met with the Lamarque zoning committee on December 12th, where they unanimously approved the conditional use permit. So first slide here is to show essentially that we have a lot of experience developing these kind of projects. Guillaume here himself has seen 22 projects from start to finish, and this is here in Texas as well. AOP was founded last year, but I want to stress that we're a team of industry experts that have a lot of experience in this. Did we miss one slide? Or no, I think this one, I'm not going to read everything off there, but the main takeaway here is that we're an independent power producer that's local here in Houston. Again, founded by industry veterans, and we're also backed by Fengate Capital. They have extensive experience in energy infrastructure investments. Next slide, please. And we'll go past this one. So we did have our pre-development meeting with Kathleen and the other planning and zoning. Thank you, Kathleen. And they expressed the requirements for us to get this conditional use permit. So part of a design does reflect that. But here I'm just showing details of our project. The green spot there is where our project will be located. And I show the approximate numbers of battery containers and the size. And one big item here is that the amount of energy that we're going to store in this battery is going to be enough. Or it's going to be the equivalent amount of power consumption that Lamarque would have for 48 hours. So essentially we're storing 48 hours worth of what the Lamarque city would be using.
When you, excuse me, when you say that, you mean our entire city, or do you mean city-owned facilities?
The entire city.
Okay.
The entire city. In the conditional use permit application, I think that we broke down the calculations based on the latest census. And then also this will bring additional tax revenue to the city.
I'm sorry, that statement, you're saying that in the event of a power outage, are you saying that Alpha Omega Power, this facility, is going to be providing us 48 hours of power. Is that what are you saying?
No, we will be storing it. The way that these battery systems work is they essentially strengthen the grid on the transmission side. So it will reduce the amount of blackouts and brownouts. But we shouldn't think of it as we're going to power only Lamarque for 48 hours.
I understand that. That's deceptive to make that statement there. I don't like that.
Okay.
Well, let's see. So you're not saying in one long 48-hour period, right? You're saying,
I'm saying that we have enough energy for 48 hours.
okay,
Does that answer your question?
yeah, but you're not suggesting, to Mayor Pro Tem's point, you're not suggesting that you would be able to power our entire city for 48 hours straight.
That's correct. I'm not.
Okay, yeah, we're just trying to, it's not a big deal. We're just trying to make sure that the residents understand what we're saying.
Absolutely.
Proceed.
We can go to the next slide. So the green area there is where our proposed project would be. And I know one of the things we talked about in the pre-development meeting, and as well this morning with the fire department, is that there'll be limited to no visibility from 1764. Again, Dino Merrigan, who's developing the land, has mentioned that there will be a strip mall where there literally will be almost no visibility from 1764. Next slide, please. This showing the future development of the land. To be clear, this would be the area of development with more development. Next slide, please. Again, we met with the city planners and as well with the fire department to come up with a site plan like this. And the main takeaway from this is that whatever the fire department needs or whatever the city deems a requirement, we will happily abide by that. So that we cross off all the boxes. Any questions concerning this?
This is an actual land conveyance as well. You acquired this property.
We currently have an option to acquire.
You have the option.
Correct.
It hasn't closed yet.
Correct.
Council, do we have any more questions for item 10.1?
So like the other battery storage that we have, are y'all going to be doing continuous training with our fire department to make sure they stay?
Absolutely. We discussed that this morning where we will come up with our emergency response plan. We'll present that to Chief Merriman and his staff. And together we will do a site-specific training as well as develop any additional response plan that's necessary.
I'm like Mr. Olstein, how many sales taxes is bringing? Because this is not the same company. This is a new.
Yeah,
company,
no,
correct?
I think Gus can help us. Gus, this is a property tax.
Yes,
Yeah.
ad valorem, yes. Correct.
Okay.
So how much it would bring would depend on the value of their added improvements, which I don't know what that would be.
Right, which we don't want to essentially guarantee an amount. But our project will cost anywhere between $70 to $140 million for total cost. So based on the tax for that property, it would be upwards of, or not upwards, but over $3 million. And then 20% of that would be going directly to the city of Lamarque.
Any more questions, council?
What type of batteries are we using in this? Going through the Department of Energy, there's like 5 different styles of batteries to be used. What's our containers that they're gonna be set in? I understand failure rates somewhere between 2 and 4, depending on the type of battery. 2 to 4%, depending on the type of battery used.
I'm gonna defer that to Guillaume, and if we can go to yeah, perfect.
Go.
Good evening, council members. Good evening, City of Lamar. My name is Guillaume Dufay. I'm a co-founder and vice president at at Alpha Omega Power. My role is engineering, procurement, construction, and also development. So pretty much everything technical. And Simon and Georgia are part of my team. Before I start, I wanted to say how amazed I am the amount of time that you all spend, time and energy you all spend dealing with the city's kind of business and helping the people. Truly impressed and amazed. The pastor talked about love, and I think you're giving all that to the city. Now, from love to battery, we are using lithium-ion batteries on these sites. It's for the last 10 years. I've been doing batteries for 6 years. For the last 6 years, for the last 10 years, the industry has evolved and matured a lot. Back 10 years ago, it was nickel cadmium batteries and all this stuff that doesn't really make any sense anymore. Nowadays, the industry has converged in 2 types of batteries for this usage. Electric vehicle tend to use nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries. Energy storage like us tend to use lithium iron phosphate batteries. I can describe a little bit more if you will. The batteries have the form of a cell, and each cell is about the size of that trash can over there, maybe a little smaller. Matter of fact, they're usually blue like that trash can. And they stack together to make what we call a module. And module is about the size of a large suitcase, a little bit bigger than a suitcase. It's about 400 pounds, depending on the technology and the manufacturer. And all of these modules stack up together in a rack that you see on the container. There are 4 racks on this specific container. And each module is fully redundant, can be removed, replaced. It's monitored separately with the control system 24/7. It has its own cooling system to maintain the temperature and make sure it doesn't go haywire. And I will also say that I have developed from scratch, engineered, procured, built. Well, I haven't built all, we hired folks, but over 22 projects in Texas that make probably 1.5 gigawatts of batteries in Texas, just in Texas. And I am very impressed with the fire department that you all have here. They are the most elaborate that I've dealt with. They know everything about these. And we intend to comply in all points with their requirements. And we have already shown them a bunch of material. And we kept telling them, guys, any question you have, we are transparent. Our job is to bring some services to the city of Lamarck. The last thing we want is to bring any trouble to the city of Lamarck. Any other technical question?
This is not technical. This is in the title policy here. Who's Plus Power?
Plus Power is a competitor of us. They own a facility in the city of Angleton.
I don't quite understand why in the documents that you provided, why are these other entities being shown in here in the title policy?
Yeah, we have shown, we wanted to, that's a suggestion from the pre-development meeting. We wanted to show evidence of how similar development in the state of Texas have increased the property value and thus the taxable value for the various communities that they are serving. So we've included that facility from the city of Angleton that is owned by Plus Power, where they've developed this project and it has increased the taxable value by so-and-so, and also increased the tax revenue directly to the city.
So you were advised to do this in your pre-development meeting, is what you're saying?
Well, that was a suggestion that was made.
Suggestion by our team, representative.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We explained to them that they need to show the council and provide examples of other projects that they've done or other
Right.
projects in the area, similar to what before is the council's, was
Right,
interested in
right.
doing.
Absolutely.
Previous project, so that y'all can have all the information.
Thank
I
you.
will say, we brought this forth, that the taxable value would increase, and we have been challenged by the pre-development meeting folks who have challenged us that, well, it is not obvious that these projects have increased the taxable value. And we've done our research, we went through the public records, and we were able to provide this evidence because it matters. We're coming to the business in the community. We want to play by the book, and we want to show you that other people do that right.
Very good. Any more questions, council?
So our conditional use here is for 400 megawatt battery storage facility, but you're saying it only is producing 200. So why are we doubling what?
So batteries have two important metrics, the power and the capacity. The power is the megawatts, 200 megawatts, and the capacity is the megawatt hours. That's 400 megawatt hours. So our batteries can deliver 200 megawatt of power for 2 hours. So 2 times 200 is 400 megawatt hours. Which is why, and it's incredibly confusing. I've spent the last 6 years of my life explaining that to as many people as possible. I wish we could come up with a more simple way of describing it, but that's just the way.
That was more to help others out there that understand, that look at this and understand why you're saying it's 200 megawatts and why there's a conditional use for 400 megawatt.
Yeah, thank you for pointing to that. Yes.
Oh, council, if we have no more questions on item 10-1, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve a conditional use permit for a 400 megawatt hour battery storage facility on parcel 304-858 near the public storage facility on FM 1764.
Is that a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Item 10-2, proposed resolution, submission of a loan application. Submission of a loan application to the Texas Water Development Board for sanitary sewer inflow and infiltration reduction. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. As Rick makes his way forward here, I want to remind you that this was in the items we brought to you before. We received an invitation to apply, past that first round, and now we're bringing this back forward to you, assuming that you would like for us to move forward. Rick, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, good evening, Mayor and City Council, Rick Souther, Public Works Director. This item pertains to the PIF project information form we submitted to Texas Water Development Board. Just to tell you a little bit about the ranking and how we got to where we're at. Basically, within the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Program, right now, there's 146 projects on the intended use plan. That totals $2.8 billion. That all has to do with sanitary sewer and stormwater projects throughout the state. We were selected with 7 other entities to apply. That cost is about $149 million with those 8 entities. Our project is $10 million is what we put forward. It was a stormwater or a sanitary sewer I&I reduction, basically working on our pipelines. We have a meeting with Texas Water Development Board later this week that we'd like to discuss, also working on our manholes. That would be part of that project. I believe we can include that. It all has to do with I&I reduction. The manholes we were planning on doing with the large project that is underway right now, unfortunately, we're not able to get all the manholes done. This funding would allow us to tackle those manholes. Manholes contribute to about 30 to 35% of I&I inflow and infiltration. into our sanitary sewer system. So fixing the manholes is certainly important, somewhat of a priority. The remaining funds are used to either replace or line existing sanitary sewer pipes. We're doing 2 sections with the current project. One of the sections that we were planning on doing is not getting done because of funding through that loan program or the grant program through GLO. We are subject to some forgiveness on this project. We need to show about 30% or $3 million is green subsidized, green towards green, basically anything to do with stormwater saving energy. We believe we can hit some of those targets anytime that we're pumping less water, we're reducing energy. We're taking less, we're reducing less energy at the treatment plant. Certainly we are helping the green environment by not putting sanitary sewer water on the ground, which is what we're doing right now. With sanitary sewer overflows, that is a huge environmental impact that we plan to reduce with this funding. So the forgiveness is 15% of what we can show as green infrastructure on this project. That'll be developed during the planning and development of this project. Right now, what we have is basically a project scope, which has to do with sanitary sewer pipelines and manholes. I gave you some numbers. Was it cost? So, and I didn't try to extrapolate any of the forgiveness that could come back to us. But a straight up $10 million loan over 20 years, we can get 30-year funding, but over 20 years, it's about $635,000 a year. Works out to be about $6.50 per service connection.
For the year,
Per month,
$6 per month.
$6.52 per month.
Per
For
service connection.
and that's for 8,000 customers. As the customer base goes up, and those numbers would change a little bit depending on how our rates are pushed towards commercial versus residential. So it's just kind of a ballpark. Excuse me.
Rick, I'm sorry, were you done with your presentation?
Yes.
You mentioned this before and mentioned it again tonight. We were unable to do the amount of manholes that we originally projected that we were able to do with the $7.5 million grant award because
the planning aspect of that project was done a few years back. The numbers turned out to be lower than what they are now as far as when the bids came in. COVID had a tremendous effect those years, I guess, and I hate blaming everything on COVID, but it seemed like over the last 3 to 4 years, pricing has gone up tremendously. We've seen all the bids. The next item is another problem with the bid, but we've seen all of our bids come in high right now. We're not the only ones that we're seeing that based on our input. So out of the 600 and some odd manholes we were planning on doing, we're doing about 150 to 200. So we're leaving quite a few behind.
That again? We were planning 600 and what?
At 650, I believe, is that right? 685.
And we're only doing what, 100 and what?
180.
We have to add that, not just that, we're doing it in manual. There are lines that require repairing, and they take priority over some of the manholes that we're doing. So
We're doing 2 sections of pipes, yes, sir.
instead of doing all the manholes. I mean, you could just do manholes, but then our sewer lines are still in bad shape. So it's a matter of prioritizing which one takes priority. And we decided that we'll do 160 something manholes and some sewer lines, which would be better deal for the city as opposed to just doing my own, because we're still gonna see those sewer lines break.
So let me ask you this. I'm sorry, Joe, did you?
And that was done with that adjustment was done with the GLO's consent?
Yes. So the way we bid projects having alternates, and then based on the value you get when you bid the project, you could take those alternates and add that back into the base, you know, to make a complete project, so that we don't leave money on the table.
And Mayor Pro Tem, we've been in constant communication with GLO as the prices and everything has come up. That's why they've come forward and supported the actions that we've taken to date.
When did we make that decision?
What decision are you referring to, sir?
To reduce the amount of manholes?
When we awarded the bid.
Let me just explain.
Yeah, help us to understand, because we got a lot of different things with.
We bid a project, we bid 685 manholes and sewer lines as well. The best way to bid it is to do a base bid, because we know how much money we have and the potential for not being able to do some parts of the project. But we bid the base and we have alternates. And as we receive the bids, we add alternates into that base based on how much money we have, so that we could present the city with the best value. So we take there were 12 areas with manholes. So now we have to take the worst case scenario, the areas that have the worst manholes, and add them in. And that's being decided when we bid the project, or when it's before it's been awarded.
And that's fine. I guess what we're trying to understand as a council, and all of that's fine. If GLO approves that,
Yeah.
that's great. I guess what I am, and perhaps what some of us are trying to find out, is when was that decision made? The decision to go from what we thought was 685 manholes being repaired to 180 manholes and certain feet of pipe.
That happened after we received the bids and we saw what the bids came in as, because ultimately we realized that we're unable to do all the 685 manholes.
And that's fine. So I guess
On the bid award,
Hmm?
the bid award.
So-
time.
right here. And I get that. I guess what I'm asking is when did the council weigh in on this decision?
So let me try to explain, I guess, when we brought forth the award of bid document to council, we had those numbers in there at that time. In fact, we went back on this particular project. And when we awarded the base bid, we awarded X amount of manholes in a certain feet of pipe. And we mentioned, we told council and the public at that time how many manholes we were doing, less than.
I remember
less than
that.
What it was.
Yeah.
And we left some money on the table. So we went back in and added some additional pipeline work on this project, which was another section of pipeline. And that was, we basically changed the award to include that other section of pipe.
Right. I guess and I remember the conversation that we were not going to be able to do 685. I don't remember the part of the conversation that suggested it was because we were putting more of those dollars into more of our pipeline repair or replacement. I felt like that conversation was more about the cost of construction rising. And so because things cost more, we would do less.
Right.
And that felt like what the conversation was.
It should have been, sir. Yes.
Right.
Because
But
one of the larger sections of pipeline that we're not doing is actually on the west side, that entire large transmission main that's on the west side of I-45. That project got left behind also.
But Rick, do you get what I'm saying? Here's what I'm trying to ask you.
Okay.
We started out with 685 manholes. right? At some point, you did come and say, we're not going to be able to do 685 manholes. I believe I was under the assumption it was because construction costs had risen, right? Which meant that we wouldn't be able to do as many manholes. What you're suggesting here tonight is the reduction of the amount of manholes that we would be doing is also based on doing other projects associated with it.
So-
This always part of the bid.
The entire bid, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
so it's not
It wasn't-
we took another project and we said, this was all
Yeah,
part of the bid. And we had the base bid and we had alternates, which is a combination of manholes and sewer lines that we needed repair.
So
So
the,
this was all part of the bid that was presented to council.
the performance statement that we have with GLO, which is what by contract we're required to do, is all the manholes and all three sections of pipelines. That performance statement will need to get amended based on this project costs. And that's the conversations that we've had preliminarily through our grant administrator, Grant Works with GLO, because that happens all the time. It's not unusual. So basically, by contract, by the performance statement, we were required to do everything that we're telling you, all three sections of pipeline and the manholes. That's what's on that statement. In reality, that's not what we're going to be able to do.
So when the council approved accepting grant funding for 685 manholes, did anybody explain to the council that perhaps we wouldn't do 685 manholes because there may be other associated work in the same?
No, it was all in the same performance statement. So that was before my time a little bit. I don't know Brett's involvement. So when the performance statement was drawn up with GLO, when the funding was put in place, the performance statement included all the manholes and 14,000 feet of pipe. I might be off a little bit, maybe 18,000 feet of pipe for relining. That's the total project.
Right. I'm just trying to ask, and council believed that 685 manholes would be repaired at some point or replaced. Or at some point, that stopped being accurate.
Right.
That's after the bids came in.
Did we come back to council and say, this is what you all accepted? This is what we're doing now. This is why we're doing it now, so that you can have greater clarity, so that the public can have greater clarity.
So when we received the grant for the project, it included 685 manholes and sewer lines. These were the items that were in the grant package.
Mhm.
We bid that project, and then we realized that, we found out that prices have increased dramatically, which means we could not have done the entire project. So we got creative and figured out, well,
Gotcha.
let's see how we could get the best value for the money and not leave money on the table. So we had to devise a way to include as many manholes as we could and the sewer lines, because the city has a crumbling infrastructure that we felt that was the best value for the city. So that's why the number of manholes reduced so much.
And I was saying that the reason the number reduced is because construction costs, right, increased.
Because it's a long period between receiving the grant funding and constructing the project, and a lot has changed during that.
Right. And that's all I was trying to get us to understand. I thought maybe you all were saying that we reduced the amount of manholes simply because we wanted to do something different. Right. Okay. I got you. Got you.
We don't have a problem.
All right. Well, we're still on 10-2. Rick, did you want to add anything to your presentation?
No, sir. I believe it's somewhat, everything else is on the documents you've got. There's 3 documents that would need to be approved by city council. Basically the resolution, application affidavit, and a application filing authorizing the representation of the resolution. Just acknowledging that the resolution was in good faith. The areas that we're looking at And this kind of goes in line with what Brent was saying is certainly in the older sections of the city. Needless to say, we don't have a lot of sanitary sewer issues on the west side. We do have that trunk line on Main Street that would probably get looked at. That was part of the original project that I mentioned got left behind off this GLO work. So that would be something we'd probably take a look at on the west side. We are doing the Duro line, which is running from I-45 up to Main Street. That is getting done with the GLO project. But a lot of this funding would actually go into the areas in the northeast section and center section of Lamar.
But Ms. Turner was behind me. Is Ms. Turner here?
She may have just stepped out.
By the way,
I'm gonna leave that to public remarks.
Go ahead, Joe.
I have a question, Cesar and Rick. I guess it really goes to post Harvey. But with the, am I accurate in saying that Lamarck is rapidly approaching probably $100 million in grants that have been awarded or are pending for various projects in the city? Would I be accurate in saying that?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, you'd be accurate in saying that.
And I want everybody to understand that, at least as long as I've been on council, and certainly Mayor, you for longer, but as long as I've been on council, that's exceptional for this city.
Yeah.
That's exceptional for a city of this size. And I'm a rep for the small cities as well too, in the Houston Galveston area, and I want to congratulate all of our departments and staff, city manager, with this milestone in terms of what we're doing and rebuilding.
Mayor,
One thing I might add, and I just happened to see this out of the eight selected that were invited to apply, our neighbors at Hitchcock as a $27 million project.
Good. And how much was this worth?
10 million.
10 million.
So is there an interest rate associated?
It varies, but it's below market. The number I gave you, or I can give you, is about 2.5%. There are some variables involved, but generally it's going to be below market, absolutely below market rate. Keep in mind the application will come back to council before anything gets signed. You're not committing to doing anything at this point other than allowing staff to move forward with the application. There's some hoops we got to jump through. Like I said, we've got a meeting with Texas Water Development Board representative on Wednesday to run through some questions. The applications are due on the 29th.
Having heartburn when I think about this council approving certificates of obligation, which incurs debt for our city, but it's an action that is solely taken by the city council without voter approval. That causes a lot of heartburn in our city. This loan application for $10 million would be approved or supported by this council without any rendering from our residents. And that's the heartburn. The heartburn is it feels like our city, at least for the near future, would rather vote on any new significant debt that we would incur as a council. That's a shift from perhaps the way maybe we used to think as a community. And so while this appears to be, for me personally, while it appears to be an opportunity, it is not a voter driven at this point opportunity. That's my heartburn. Council, do we have anything we'd like to add or offer?
I have a question. This goes back to when you had us had a bid retraction, basically. You had us vote to resubmit the bids for this because back in November, I want to say timeframe, when you asked, we originally voted to do the 685 manholes. And then you said, oh, we can't do it, so we're asking to relook at all this. Is that how it's coming about?
Actually, the original project information form of this was actually submitted by Public Works last March. That is part of that 2.8 billion dollars that is in this fund program that is operated by Texas Water Development Board. So they keep these projects available. I mentioned, and I'll go off book here a little bit. We also put in for drinking water on their SRF for about 20 million. It got written down to about 16 million. We didn't get invited to apply for that this year, but we did get invited to resubmit. So that's something that I'll be bringing to you next month, because that is due again in March. So the funding opportunities are there. I don't believe the city has used this funding before. I have in my past. So the state revolving fund program through the APA is a pretty popular program that's used pretty widely by a lot of municipalities. The bipartisan infrastructure reduction act that was passed, all that money that's coming into the water and wastewater funding is coming through this program. That's the only way, that's how that money will get distributed, is through these programs. And Texas Water Development Board handles the federal funds through the EPA for the state revolving funds in the state of Texas.
And it's significant, I'll say, this is, I don't equate these with certificates of obligation there, but why? Big significant difference. It could be up to 100% actually, depends upon what the body is, could be forgivable in terms of how effectively we're doing our work. Are we complying with deadlines, things of that nature? But the process begins by submitting the application like we're doing here.
And to clarify that, because I don't want any miscommunications, the numbers as I read them is 15% of the green infrastructure cost of the project, which in order to make those qualifications, 30% of the project cost, or $3 million, would need to be related to green subsidies, which I believe we can hit that. Can the whole 10 million possibly? So that would mean that if you could hit the full 10 million, it'd be 15% of that 10 million would be forgiven, basically, is where the numbers fall in, is the way I read it.
Any further discussion, Council?
This is just us asking, you're asking permission to be able to apply. We're not accepting any money. We're not taking any money
You're
at
not
this
signing
moment in
anything on a
time.
dotted line,
We're
other
not
than a resolution to submit an application.
to submit an application.
Right. And the application has to get approved by Texas Water Development Board to come back to City Council to even approve it. So there's some, like I said, there's some things that we still gotta get them some information out of these 8 people that they've invited to apply. We're one of the 8. But if we want to take the next step, that's what it would take at this point in time.
So we have an opportunity to still have citizens come in and let us know what their plans are, or have them reach out to us and let
Public
us know.
meetings, there's time, because this won't happen real fast.
I'm okay with that.
I move for approval.
The second,
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing no more, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Item 10.3. Proposed resolution rejecting all bid proposals for the Main Street sanitary sewer repairs. Rick, that looks like that's you as well.
Yes, sir. So this is another one of those boondoggles that we ran onto. So there's two sections of sanitary sewer pipe on Main Street, one at Bayou, which is a real problem line, and one at Erickson. We put it out to bid. Council approved to put that out to bid back in August. November, actually. We approved the plans to move forward in November. Unfortunately, the bids came in way higher than what engineering had this thing estimated at. We originally had it about $125,000. The low bid we got was $354,000, excuse me, $228. There was a second bidder of $896,000. I'm not sure what they were reading, but they were way off. So engineering and myself, we discussed some options here. What we're recommending to council is to reject the bids. We're reworking the project, reworking the scope a little bit to see if we can take some work out of it and get the price down. We weren't planning on spending over $200,000 on this project. And that engineering's numbers originally was about $125,000. Once we re-engineer, we look at some numbers and redesign it, we'll bring that back to council and go back out to bid again. We do want to get these pipelines fixed. The Bayou line is causing a sanitary sewer overflow on Bayou that's been reported by city manager. I'm aware of it. It's been spewing water out since I've been here, and years before that. So it's something that desperately does need to get fixed. We just don't like this price. We just think that the numbers are too high for what we're wanting to get done.
Council, any questions for Rick on item 10.3?
No, just that you mentioned Erickson, they've had a lot of issues on that street as far as water being out and all of that. So we definitely need to get that fixed ASAP.
So yeah, just so we don't mix it up. So this is a sanitary sewer project. There's a small line on Erickson that actually comes across Main Street that for some reason they brought it into an old manhole that got left years ago. That's actually not a manhole. It seems like it's so that's the Erickson fix is going to fix that. The water problems that we're having on Erickson and Irene, we had another break on Irene the other day. Unfortunately, we're having to shut water off down at Bayou because it's the only valve we've got on that 16-inch main. That'll get remedied with our new water main that's going in, but that's a 9-month project. So unfortunately, there's still going to be some struggles for those are all dead end streets. Erickson's a dead end, Persera's a dead end, Irene's a dead end, Briar's a dead end.
Any more questions?
If we just keep shortening the scope of the work, we're gonna have to finish it at some point anyways. Why aren't we looking to fund?
So one of the things we're looking at on this particular project is the Erickson line. Admittedly, because eventually you're right, sir, most of the sanitary work's going to get done in a larger scale. The Erickson line that we looked at was in the original plan is really more of a manhole problem than maybe a pipeline program. So we may have just over-engineered that. Is not that I'm throwing anybody under the bus, but we may have overshot that plan a little bit. The Bayou line definitely needs to get reworked. So we want to put our money into that Bayou line, fix the Erickson problem. One of the pipelines that's getting lined with the GLO project happens to be the Main Street sanitary sewer trunk line. So that line's getting rehabbed. We blew a hole in that line last year underneath the bridge that goes underneath Main Street. So that line is bad. And we've got another hole in that Main Street line too that we need to fix. It's a matter of trying to put our money economically where we can.
Understand that we're trying to be economical, but we keep moving and patching and moving and patching. At some point, we need to just fix it.
We just think this, and Brett brought this up, I believe that when he spoke with the firm that was the low bidder, their mobilization alone was $100,000. which would seem to absorb it for us. And we only had the two bids to work off of. The 354 or the 896, which certainly the difference on those is crazy, so. We think we can get it done for under two.
And I'd like to remind everybody that this is one of those projects that was one of the bond projects that you guys allocated on the technical. Another reason for that, for reducing the scope, is we had a lot of only a certain amount of funds. We know that those are not unlimited funds. So we thought it'd be as fiscally responsible for us to rebid this and hopefully get.
Good point.
Any more questions? Hearing none, we will entertain a motion.
Motion to reject.
The second,
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 10-4. Proposed resolution, acknowledgement of receipt of the land use assumptions and capital improvement plan related to the 2024 impact fee study, setting a date for a public hearing.
Mayor, if I could have Den come forward on this.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Welcome, Den.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Appreciate the opportunity. I believe at the after discussion with Gus and after understanding there were some questions regarding from the last council meeting. There's an item that we have to, before you formally approve or pass or reject the impact fees, the land use and the capital impact fee study. There is an acknowledgement of receipt of that study has to take place and a public hearing is required. Gus, please confirm.
Yes, that's correct.
As
Yes, this
required
is,
by the statute. So at that time, we're proposing to have the public hearing date for the fourth Monday in February. Give you time to review the land use assumption, have questions. We can certainly try to answer as much as we can and provide you with some feedback as required. But at this time, it's just a matter of acknowledging receipt of the land use and the CIP. And if you have questions, I can certainly Brent drafted the majority of the work, and we're here to provide any answers. So,
Council, do we have any questions on item 10-4?
So to be clear, Mayor, we're just moving to accept it.
Right, we're acknowledging and the receipt of it.
Oh, the acknowledging the receipt of it.
Right.
at the meeting on the fourth Monday in February, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions through the public hearing. The council will as well. And that's one of the steps that we have to follow as part of before we actually start submitting you the draft of the impact fee study. This is just land use and CIP.
And you all will be here the fourth Monday of February to answer those questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Any more questions? I will entertain a motion.
Move to accept the.
The second,
Second.
any more discussion? I hear none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 10-5, a resolution establishing a policy for council expenditures. Council, I have placed this on the agenda. It has been a long time for council. We have moved into the 21st century, which means our council has allotted itself $5,000 per year to expend on projects within our district, noteworthy projects within our district. There has never been a policy attached to this this practice. This practice is about 3 years old, I believe, maybe a few years more than that. So tonight we're establishing a policy as well as our travel policy. Exactly what types of training, education, and networking we are going to permit ourselves to do. I believe there is a copy of this document in your packet. And so tonight we are going to see if there's any heartburn with any of these, any of the information in this particular resolution. So we'll open it up to council for any questions or comments concerning item 10.5.
Just for clarity purposes, Mayor, just as in your comments, we're talking about two different things here. One, on the one hand is either reimbursements or the IRS per diem associated with attendance at seminars or travel. And then the second is the usage of the $5,000 discretionary amount for each council person.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
That's okay.
And the idea is for us to be able to define for ourselves, to police and to parent ourselves, to come to an agreement as a council, what sorts of projects, and we don't mean types of projects. In other words, we're trying to decide what sorts of city-related projects, thank you, that we would like to consider. And what sorts of city-related travel we would like to consider tonight.
The clarify what we've been operating under right now is the IRS per diem. Would that be accurate, Kira?
Yeah, let me clarify because I want to make sure we're talking about the same things. My intention tonight is for our council to basically outline what types of travel we want to be a part of, and what types of expenditures that we want to allow ourselves to expend those $5,000 for. In other words, do we want to go to a conference that is specifically and explicitly city-related business, a conference that is a Texas Municipal League conference, a hurricane conference, a smart cities conference, a National League of Cities conference, or do we want to allow ourselves to expand to allow for travel that indirectly affects and impacts city business? By the same token, with the $5,000 expenditure that we have allotted ourselves, we need to be very specific on how we want to allot that spending, and that needs to be consistent with purchasing policies as well as with the legalities of taxpayer funds. Right now, what's happening is each individual council members and the mayor, we are deciding how we want to expend those funds, but the council has not yet parented or policed itself. And so there's a wide range of different ideas on how we want to go about expending those $5,000. And there's a wider range ideas of how we want to travel, what sorts of conferences and classes we want to go to. And so tonight we want to, because again, we're growing in these areas, we want to be able to outline very clearly in black and white what sorts of conferences and educational opportunities we want to go to. In other words, let me drill down even more. Do we want to simply say to ourselves, we will not travel unless it is city-related business and there is a class or a conference or a meeting that we can clearly provide a city-related subject or topic in that travel? Number one. Number two, when we expend those $5,000 of taxpayer monies, Do we want to clearly say to ourselves that we will spend these monies on projects within our city? Do we want to be able to expend these monies to nonprofit organizations? If so, will they be within our city? Will they be without our city? Because again, right now, we don't have a policy.
Yeah, I think that should go without saying that it should be, within our city where those funds are being dispersed. I mean,
agree.
there are citizens' monies, they should go back to our citizens in one way or another.
I agree.
I don't think that this, I don't, what you've just said is not what this policy addresses. It's my opinion. This policy is dealing with two different things. One is just basically a travel policy and eligible for travel allocations related. And that's one section. And then we have the section 2 that talks about the discretionary fund. If this is accurate, if we're going to follow what you're saying, the order needs to be reversed. It needs to talk about the use of the discretionary fund dollars.
Sure.
And then there should be a separate one that talks about the count, because we have a separate budget item that deals with attendance at conferences and things of that nature.
A budget line
The
item?
budget line item.
Right, but it doesn't outline exactly what types of conferences. we can
And
attend.
I agree with, that's what I'm saying. There's two different,
Right.
with two items.
Sorry, for clarity, is your request that these, instead of it being section 1 and section 2 of one policy, that they be two separate policies?
That's what, to be consistent with
yeah.
what
Okay,
I
just
heard
wanna make
here,
sure when I-
right?
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
Yeah.
write
Yeah.
it, it's accurate.
Yeah, and tonight, council, again, this is an introduction. This is not something that we have to have imposed upon us. I believe that Kiara is trying to provide for us a blueprint that we might navigate and get to this easier.
And I would suggest, Kira, that it would be helpful for all of us, especially newer, to give us a summary of what we've been doing now. What are we doing now in terms of attendance and policy? I mean, it's using the budget to attend these different conferences and things versus what we've used the discretionary fund.
Well, right now, each council person chooses where they would like to train or attend conference. The problem with that is you may choose to attend a conference where you want to intern with the Texas Rangers with the baseball team in Arlington.
Right.
And that has no bearing on what needs to happen in the
That's
city
what
of
I'm
Lamar.
saying.
Right.
It's two different things, right?
Right.
One's the discretionary fund, uses
Right.
of that.
And then one's
And
travel policy.
Then others are regular.
Travel policy. Right.
Travel, education,
Right.
things that we do, TML, National League of Cities, whatever, things of that nature.
Right.
that we're
So you're saying, it sounds like you're saying, let's break it up into two different policies, right?
Yeah.
Is there any heartburn with any of the language in anything that Kiara has provided for us tonight?
Well, I really haven't, I was trying to make sense of it. So when I first looked at it, I'm thinking, some of these are very too specific.
Again, the council, the intent for me as the mayor of this council, the intent is to bring some sort of a policy so that there isn't always ambiguity and different interpretations on what should and should not happen. We as a council, we govern ourselves, we come to an agreement, and from that point on, we allow ourselves to be governed by the council. It's just as simple as that. And I've noticed and I've found that as we have these new abilities to help our constituency or new abilities to travel, because there was a time when I served on council with Council Member Osteen, those councils did not travel. That was just preference. They did not. So this is something that is new. It's okay, we get it, but we want to make sure that we are governing ourselves in a way that will be reflective of our charter and the taxpayers' dollar. Now, two policies, sounds like, Karen. Doesn't sound like any heartburn with any of,
Well, I'm still reading it, so I need to make sure that I go back over it and look at it, because I do like to use my networks to help the city. And some of the things that we use, so I need to make sure that I look at it, because some of the things that I go to directly benefits the city, the networks, the things that, and the information that I receive. And so, and I've read it 3 times and I don't have much heartburn with it, but I am a little concerned. It wasn't that it was confusing, it just flip-flopped. And I just kind of need to, because I would like to still attend some of the things that I have traditionally gone to, that is just, especially when it comes to education, right? And legislative classes as well, that come back and help. So I want to make sure that we don't X that out, because that is definitely a benefit to the city. Because any platform, because Joe and I do probably the most traveling when it comes to, because we have a lot of other nonprofit networks that we're in, and those networks come back to directly impact the city, the information that we receive. So I want to make sure that, because I don't know if it covers it in here, right? That what I'm reading, I don't think it really covers that. So I want to make sure that that it's in there.
And let me interject this. And because I don't want to tie down some other future council person.
Right.
When I move on at some point and there's a different person that's the Houston Galveston Council representative, right? I find out about opportunities there at that session. And I'm always looking for flexibility to say, we've got this. That's where I learned about a lot of the water conference,
Right.
the water, the infrastructure stuff, right? That I brought back. So I want enough flexibility there. But I do think that we need 2 different ones, right? What talking about.
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. Let me address something that you said, Joe, about tying the hands of council, and then something that Ms. Yancey said. One of the things that I envisioned, I spoke with Kiara about this when she was gathering information for me to try to craft this, was that this would be something that would continually be renewed after every election, right? After every election, you will seat a new council, right? And in that seating of that new council, that council will decide, right? Each council's new, just like each Congress is new. They govern themselves. Some of these things will change, I'm sure, from council to council based on council understanding, community sentiment, as well as budget and other factors. And so definitely, Joe, there's some flexibility there in what I believe we can do. Ms. Yancey, there may be opportunity for those things that you were saying that aren't directly a city business, but I believe that perhaps in that opportunity, there has to be a consistent partnership and a documented memorandum of understanding. We have to start building the case for why we're doing what we're doing. These policies can only make us better and focus us more. Again, this is just a blueprint. Ms. Yancey, you can add certainly those things that you believe are important. We will vote on those. Mr. Compion as well. We'll end with a good policy. I believe that council will be happy with. This is not the only policy. There will be other policies. There will be a policy on decorum. And there will be a policy on conduct when we're representing the city. Again, we're governing ourselves here. And so we decide as a council how we proceed and how we represent this city. But we want to make sure that we're saying it together and we're doing it together. Any further questions on this? Very good. We will bring this back to you next meeting give Ms. Yancey and Mr. Compion time to add their comments. Item 10.6, request for proposal, discussion, possible action to approve the release of a request for proposal for strategic plan for the city of Lamarque. The council asked for this item to be placed on the agenda again as well. We have talked for the better part of a year about vision. We believe that our city is ready for a vision forward, a new vision forward. And so we have chatted officially and unofficially about an idea of a Lamarque 2050 plan. This is the request for proposals for that strategic plan. Caesar.
Thank you, Mayor. We've encompassed all of the conversations that I've had from previous councils to this current council as to what the area that we would need. If you remember, the original plan that was in place ran from Alex is gone, I believe, 2015 to 2022. We want to make sure that we chart our path for the foreseeable future as far as the Vision 2050 plan. So enclosed is what we intend to put out. We hope that this encompasses everything that the entire council has requested. And we look forward to feedback so we can get this thing going. Thank you.
Council, do we have any questions? I just want to let the council know that in this plan is a facilities usage plan. That's going to help us to understand our facilities, where they should be located, what size they should be, what sorts of facilities they should be, and what sort of accommodations we should have. Council, if there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
The motion is to go ahead and approve the RFP.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, well, I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Excuse me. Item 10.7, elections contract discussion. Possible action regarding entering into a contract with the Galveston County Clerk, the Galveston County Election Officer for the general election to be held on May 4th, 2024. Possible runoff election June 5th, 2024. Kiara, earlier in the meeting, there were questions about this contract, and you said you had some new information. Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, sir. So since our last meeting, I have spoken with the Galveston County Elections Division about our polling locations. As we said at the last time, whenever we do the initial resolution to call the election, we always place the polling location that's here in this building, as that is kind of like our anchor location, right? That is the location that is, it's our historic location. We know that location, no matter what, will be open. As far as the central station location, sorry, that is a newer location, just as far as the county goes, right? So they're still trying to see how it works, like if it's something that they want to keep open all the time. Historically, it has been used in November, in all the November elections, which is as reference to the elections that Mr. Mitchell was talking about. It will, for this particular election, be open on election day. We did have that discussion. It was confirmed earlier today. They will not be using it for early voting, but on election day, that location will be open. Honestly, the county has countywide polling locations. Any member of the county who is voting in an election that is being held by the Galveston County Elections Division can vote at any location within the county. That it does not matter where you go, you do have the ability to vote. Like I said, this particular location, a lot of the times the reason why they do it is just honestly because of the traffic. The election workers do get paid to be there. That cost is split amongst the county. The county decides which polling locations they will be using. Just in this particular election, they have decided to use it for election day. So that location is available to our residents as well as anyone else in the county who would like to use it.
But why not early voting? Why won't they open that up for early voting? It doesn't make sense to have it just open for elections and not early voting.
I think if I may, Kiara, I think what you were trying to say was because you can vote anywhere in the county during early voting, they didn't think that it was necessary to open as many.
Yeah, so there are actually a few locations that are only open on election day, just because of the volume of people that vote on election day. They give you more places that you can go. So that list, when we get them, and we won't have them probably until mid-February, just because everyone has to sign the contracts to see who's having an election, and then they get split up, and then they have to go to the commissioner's court. And so we'll know then when they are, but there is always a difference in the locations that are open for early voting and the locations that are open for election day. If you're open for early voting, you're always open for election day, but there are going to be some additional locations on election day. And it's just to stop, the claims of people having to wait on long lines, or, not being able to vote because they hit the cutoff time. So it's just to provide you more opportunity on election day.
So what are our rights if we don't agree with that? As a council, if we say we would like it open for early voting?
So we could, like I said, every election, we make the request to have both locations, right? I had spoken with them before about the location before they had made a final decision on opening it for that day. We do technically have the ability to say, no, we want this location open, but we would be responsible for
manning it.
For the payments of everything that is going to go into that location, which is quite an expense, because we'd be solely responsible for the machines, the polling workers, and all of that. So that is an option that's available to us. It just comes with a little bit of a price tag.
And that goes back to me earlier, last meeting, talking about give us the historical data about this location. We in order to make a sound decision, you have to have the history. You
Yes,
have
sir.
to know what actually happened.
Yes, sir. Which is why I said traditionally they use it for larger elections. So
They
use
were open for early voting last year, both locations.
they'll use it for November elections typically, or if there are like county elections, something where they have like a larger spread. And then it also helps in terms of.
Did they use it for the B and D election?
Don't believe so. I believe it was open in the November.
Did they use it for the special election in C?
Mm,
No.
mm,
Did they use it for the recall election of the mayor? That was November.
That was a November election. It was
So
open.
was there ever a time that we had a mayor's race, an A and a C race, that location was ever used?
That was the year that the
21.
location after that was during, I believe it was that one during like the COVID where everybody's elections got moved.
Yeah.
Moved around. So it was open for that one, but that wasn't a traditional May election. If that
Okay,
makes
I got
sense.
you. I got you.
Okay.
I got you. I got you. Okay. So do you have any data as it relates to how many people actually vote at that location during?
It fluctuates, but roughly like a high number will be like around 200 or so at that location, but that's on the high end
200 for a November election?
for when that location was open. I believe the highest number was like 260-ish. But it can be as low as 70 people. It really just depends on the election and where people decided to go.
I just feel like that location needs to be requested every time, like be diligent about it, because that's such a growing part of our city that, a lot more people are in that area now that want to vote, need to vote, should vote. So.
Yes, ma'am. And like I said, we do request it each time. It's just, they do make that final decision.
So how we feel, sounds like, the other thing I wanted to ask you before council kind of figures this out. You said earlier, we call the election, and in the calling of the election, there's always the main polling location, right?
Yes.
And then they send back how many locations they're gonna have open? Is that how that works?
So at first we call the election, and then we come to this point where we sign the contract with the county that basically just says, we do not have the ability to run our own elections. Will you do it for us? Once the commissioner's court approves all of those contracts, then they let us know, like, hey, these are all the people that are having elections, and these are the polling locations that will be open. So when we do, there's another resolution that'll come in later when we order the election, once we know who's going to be on the ballot and those things. That information, that is typically around the time where we have that final location, like, these are the early voting locations, these are the election day locations, and these are the hours that everybody is gonna be open.
So is it possible for us to moving forward in the calling of the elections, because it'll always be either A in the mayor or B, right? And those are western districts.
Mhm.
So is it possible from this point moving forward, when we do the initial calling, that we would have at least that polling location in the initial calling of the election? Or does that matter to the county clerk?
I just have hesitations with, we put it in there and then they don't man that location, and now we said that there's a polling location open that may not.
So we can put it in and they can elect not to man it?
Yes.
Okay, got you. Okay, all right.
For early voting.
So they, because they run our elections, they set our locations. I think just for historical value, like this one is kind of ingrained and it will always be there. And of course, as that location grows and it's used more, I think there is the potential for that to be another one of those like anchor locations. I think just because it is so new, we've only used it maybe 3 or 4 years. We just haven't gotten to that point yet.
But this observation,
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
and working with the county on this many years, and Ms. Yancy, I believe, and I felt this way. The effort is being made to provide as many early voting locations in the city of Galveston. So you've got the county courthouse as a early voting location. And then just down the road at 55th Street, down at Moody Church, that's another early voting location. And that's within what, 3 miles? That's within 3 miles. I think from here to the West Side Station is more than 3 miles, correct?
Right.
And I think that's the argument that we have to, fairness, that we ultimately have to start saying in writing to the county, because rightfully, this location is not only servicing because of the open, what do you call it? Open voting,
Open polling.
voting center, the voting center. It services all of our new residents in Texas City. It's servicing our Hitchcock residents, the down Delaney, the one at the Central Fire Station. Okay, so the growth that's associated with our population centers in all of our communities over there. So I'd suggest as part of this, Mayor, that we draft, or Gus, probably turning you to draft a very strong letter to the county encouraging here for these reasons, right? For fairness,
We like to keep this
Keep this included, both for early voting and as a voting site in the future.
Yeah.
And expand that footprint.
Well, we have before us tonight a polling location that will be open on election day, as well as early voting polling locations throughout the county. Council, are we requesting more, or are we voting on what was presented to us tonight?
I personally would like to go ahead and make the ask, but certainly accept what they have so far, but make the ask.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, we have to turn this
Have
in
turn
by
it
the
in.
31st. We can do it with the provision that I asked them if they would reconsider
Early voting.
that location as their.
That's
early
fair.
voting.
That's fair.
Reasons.
Now, also, if they were to grant this request,
Mhm.
how much more would that be on our contract? Because we're voting on a contract tonight, yes? Are we voting on a dollar figure or?
No, so we're just voting on asking them to facilitate our elections. That's what this contract is gonna do. If we do ask for the additional site, I believe that's just kind of a discussion that I'll have to have with them. If we can prove that it's beneficial to everybody, then that cost will be split amongst all of the people.
And they still can say, they still can say no.
They still have
Okay.
the right to say no.
Okay.
If we can make that argument, then it will that cost, as with all the other election costs, will get split amongst all of the entities that are participating.
Okay.
So we actually never fully know how much we're gonna pay for this until really it's all said and done.
Okay. Okay. Council, do we have any more questions for item 10.7?
Nope.
I will entertain a motion.
No, I move that we accept the proposed site or the contract. But with the adding that we make a request to include the central
Location for
park
early
station
early
for
voting.
early voting.
Very good. I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 10.8, grant application. Discuss possible consent to submit an application to the Texas Park and Wildlife Department for grant funding for a recreational trail at Mahan Park. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a grant application in line with our Parks Master Plan. This item went to the Parks Board this past week for consideration, and it did pass. This is a 80-20 grant application in line with the walking trails at Mahan Park. We are seeking your approval to submit this application so we can continue the improvement of our parks according to our parks plan and align with our capital improvement plans for our parks. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Garcia? Scissor, this application calls for a walking trail at Mahan Park. Does the Parks Master Plan have a walking trail at Mahan Park?
Yes, Mayor, there are walking trails, provide connectivity for Mahan Park. Yes, sir.
In the Parks Master Plan?
Yes, sir.
Very good. There are no further questions. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 11, appointments. Appointments, reappointments, and or removals of members of boards, commissions, and committees. Council, do we have any appointments tonight? I believe that Ms. Nance placed before you your districts and the boards or committees that you still have to appoint to for 2024.
And Mayor, just to update that, that first page, the Board of Adjustments one, that has been, that's not vacant.
Yes, sir. You did appoint Ms.
That was,
Ginger to that
Ms.
position.
Ms. Ginger.
Virginia Ginger.
Okay. Does anybody have any appointments tonight?
For District D, keep Lamarck beautiful. I'm gonna renominate Miss Ashley Gooden Stewart.
Okay. Anyone else?
So for District A, I would ask that the council would pray for Eli Johnson. He's been very ill on hospice at the moment. I'm going to replace him with his wife, Bridget Johnson.
Where we,
District
District
A
A?
appointments under cemetery.
okay. Eli replaced with Bridget.
Bridget Johnson,
Very
and to
good.
reappoint Alexa and Caleb if they're, if it's time for them to be reappointed.
All of these indicate those that are time for reappointment.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have Mrs. Cross, Mr. Smith, Ms. Johnson, and Mrs. Gooden Stewart so far.
We already did the Board of Adjustments a while back. That one was.
Billy Jefferson.
Yes, sir. You reappointed Mr.
Miss Beverly got, you nominated her for something, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I nominated her for building standards. But yeah, but she wouldn't be on here. She's already been appointed. Right. Okay.
So that's another, so you have an opening.
Yeah, so I have an opening. I would like to reach out to some of these people that have applications and see
Yes, sir.
who's still interested, because their times change.
Yes, sir.
So I'll be up here tomorrow and get them.
Yes, sir.
And I just want to reappoint everyone on District B appointment. The remaining amount.
Yes, sir.
Remaining names there.
I don't know about Ms. Winston. You might want to call her, Joe. Oh, you did?
I heard that she's been attending,
Oh,
so,
she hasn't been there?
but I'll follow up.
Yeah.
I would like Kara to, I'm getting ready to call you my daughter's name. I'm sorry, it's getting late. I would like to reappoint Mrs. Crystal Cooper to the Board of Adjustments, Lindsay Gonzalez to Keep Lamarck Beautiful, Mike Rockbach to the Parks Board, Mike Webb to the Parks Board, and Grayling Alexander to the Planning and Zoning, provided that all of them are in good standing and they have reasonable attendance. Any further appointments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for those nominations.
So moved.
The second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 12, there is no executive session. Item 13, there would be no actions to take from executive session. So before we get to adjournment, we will allow for items for the good of the order. And we will start with something that Ms. Allred is familiar with. We call it seniority. So she is the rookie, and so we'll start with Ms. Allred.
The oldest?
That's not good.
I just hope everyone has a good and safe new year and just let's all be kind to one another.
That's you.
I would like to once again thank Captain Curtis Barber for his 27 years. It was a great honor to be at his last call at the fire department. Cole, we were all frigid out there. Then went straight from there to Kelly's for the volunteer breakfast. That was great. The amount of people that were there. Miss Maggie giving out pictures. That was, I have a great picture from us at the burn there, Chief, that she printed out and put in a little frame and everything. That was an amazing event. I can't wait to do that again next year. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of January. Can't believe it's already 2024. It's gonna be an interesting year. Remember, if you want to apply to run for office, you have until the 16th of February to get your paperwork in and do it. Look forward to see who all is going to be on the ballot. That's all I have.
Okay, tomorrow, one of the things that I pride myself in is representing the city when we attend things like the facilities committee that Cesar and I served on, and there was one particular day, a very important day, where a question came up about the Lamarque Stadium. And I was very proud to be the only one from the city of Lamarque to stand up and say, we will support the building of a stadium when we were on the facilities committee, trying to get ready for the bond, which did pass. So tomorrow is the groundbreaking for the new Lamarque High School, which is definitely needed at 3:30. They've moved it into inside the high school. And for those of us that had to stay 6 to 7 years in a building, some of those babies have been there more than that, from junior high to high school, in a building that just is really not conducive for children. Tomorrow is a big day. And so some of you may wonder, some of the meetings we go to, the things we have to do, but it does make a difference when you're present and when you can speak up for your city. So I'm really excited about that. February 22nd, we will be sponsoring Shirley Harrington all the way from Jackson, Mississippi at the library. I'm excited about sponsoring her as well as she talks about her journey for doing the civil rights movement. And she'll be here that Thursday, February 22nd at our library. The MLK parade was rescheduled for February 24th at 10 a.m. And I want to ask you about for the next agenda
Cesar, about the associate judge. I know we've talked about that a little bit
Yes.
before. I want to make sure that we include that, so we can get some help as well. And other than that, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to urge everyone, we have this crazy weather here in our area. We go from very cold to very hot. It reminded me of AG. And, but if you're using electric heaters, please plug in the electric heater into the wall. Don't use the extension cords. We've had fires and unfortunately they resulted in some deaths as well too. So I don't want to have anybody to deal with that occurrence. I urge everyone to come out. It's exciting of the groundbreaking for the new high school and there at Lamarque, and it represents a stronger community. That's what schools and we do need to start bragging more about our schools and our facilities in that side. So urge you to come out for that particular event as well too. And as a discussion, I ask that we look at, and I'm going to give you some streets, Ms. City Manager, but we do need, I keep getting asked about our streets. When are we going to have embark upon some sort of program and in terms of dealing with with some of the worst? And I want to have some thoughts there and discussion on that. And Mr. Mayor, this is just a question in terms of I do miss kind of workshop items. I have to say that, just where we have a discussion about something without having formal action.
Yeah.
And maybe every quarter it might be helpful that we might consider something like that. And we can all submit our topics from there.
Thank you, Joe. Let's to respond to what Mayor Pro Tem offered as it relates to street maintenance. I believe last meeting I requested that we go back to the street maintenance program that we already have. We basically have one. We wanted to give our council members a chance to look at those streets in their district to make sure that they're still those same streets that we need to attempt to address. That was part of that plan. The second part of that plan was that we would identify monies, fiscal resources, and earmark them for an annual street maintenance program. Well, we said if this works out with Republic Waste, that perhaps those monies from that operation, some of those monies, half of those monies, whatever council would deem, would go into a line item for a street maintenance program so that we can begin actually maintaining streets. The third part of that would be an assessment of streets and bringing major street reconstruction to the voters for approval. So that's Ms. Compion, that's something that I've been visiting with Mr. Garcia about. That's one of the things that I am working on for this year. So I believe we'll be able to get it done for the budget. So that's good news. I wanted to say also, Mr. Garcia, this council would like to see customer service training done citywide. Every staff level, every department, public works, planning, permitting, excuse me, and water department, every department we have, the library, and that customer service, I'd like to see a plan by the first meeting in March. And if at all possible, I'd like to see that plan be specific to their job functions, right? If at all possible, specific to their job functions. I also would like how long has the code enforcement department been under Chief Merriman's supervision?
Is it 4 months, October?
It, is there an opportunity for us to get a comprehensive report? Because we're hearing that there's some kinks that need to be worked out. I know that you are on top of those kinks, Chief Merriman, because I hear you say it to me every time I see you. But I'd like for us as a council to be able to look at that. In particular, that interaction that is had between code enforcement and the building standards committee and those property owners that are appearing before the building standards committee. I'd like to see a comprehensive policy. Good opportunity to have one. Kathleen was an all-star when it came to that type of work, but she no longer supervises the code enforcement department. And so we have to come up with a policy that we all can know and learn. Secondly, I would like for us to schedule a meeting. Speaking of workshops, Joe, schedule a meeting, a joint meeting between sooner rather than later, right? Between the Planning and Zoning Commission, the council, right? Open meeting, any of our citizens, our residents may attend with our attorney, with those attorneys that represent the city, so that we can move forward with a resolution as it relates to this heavy industrial ordinance, so that we can gain clarity as it relates to this issue that we've had with the railroad for quite some time. We got about 2 weeks. And so I would hope that we would be able to do something next week. See if we can get something on the agenda for the following meeting. Again, you'd have to check with council schedules to see. Thank you. Item 3, I wanted to congratulate the Parks Board for winning the Volunteer Committee of the Year again at our volunteer breakfast at Kelly's. Parks Board has been doing tremendous work. One of the things that we recognized them for was the barrel program, the trash barrel program, where individuals and organizations adopted trash barrels, painted them in any inspiration that they so chose. And it has beautified our city. It has brought people together, and it has given us a sense of pride. The Parks Board does tremendous amounts of work beyond that, but we want to say kudos to them for being the 2023 Board of the Year. I also wanted to give 2 kudos on 2 different departments before we leave tonight. I wanted to say that Rick and the Public Works Department apparently repaired over 703 leaks last year. Is that right? 703 leaks last year, up from 592 leaks. And you know what that did, Rick? That caused us to have a water loss reduction rate of under 40%. Under 40%. We once had a water loss of 60%. And so now we are under 40%. And you know what that does, Rick? That also reduces the amount of water purchases that this city has to pay for by $448,000. Good job, Public Works. Good job. And lastly, I wanted to give a kudos to our finance department and to Ms. Christine Turner. I don't know if you all noticed last meeting, we were speaking about the audit. I believe Mayor Pro Tem and some of the other my colleagues were speaking about the findings that were left off of the audit report. And at that point, I directed Mr. Garcia to direct Ms. Turner to provide for us a plan in which she would mitigate those findings. Ms. Turner had already mitigated 7 of those findings. And so in this week's report, we saw that she has done tremendous amounts of work to move us from those findings to a more advantageous place in our finance department without the council having to direct the city manager. She took the initiative to begin the response for our city. So, Ms. Turner, we want to thank you for that as well. If there's nothing further, council, again, we have a lot of things that are happening in our city, a lot of wonderful things that are happening within our community. And we want to thank you all for your time and for your service here tonight. There's nothing further. We will entertain a motion. Caesar, do you have anything?
No, sir.
No, sir. Long day. I get it. We will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.